Yeah, this is case number 199 on the calendar in the matter of Calderon versus Eagles. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, gentlemen. Have seats.
Ms. Calderon, it is your claim that the defendant had your son falsely arrested.
Yes.
And you want all kinds of damages. Ms. Eagles says in her response that your son is a bad influence on her boy. She didn't want him in her home. He violated a direction by the police to stay out of her home. She had an absolute right to have him arrested for trespass because he was told to stay out of her home. That's your defense.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Which boys are they?
My son Matthew.
Matthew. Step up. And which is your boy?
Devin.
Devin. I'm going to start with you, Miss Eagles.
Okay.
What's wrong with him?
Well, I do not like some of the things that Matthew does.
How do you know about these things?
Because my son has been hanging out with him for quite some time, and
Well, tell me about how long they've been hanging out together, and how do you know it's Matthew that's the cause of the trouble?
Well, they've been hanging around each other for, I'm going to say, approximately 4 years, 5 years.
Okay.
And I know that whenever Devin was around him, he would just turn into something that I could not control. He would be obnoxious to me.
You mean your son?
Yes. I knew that Matthew was involved with drugs, and I'm trying to keep my son from being involved in such garbage, and that's why I know.
How did you know that Matthew was involved with drugs?
Well, I know on one occasion, Kevin told me that Matthew had drugs.
Who's Kevin?
Kevin is right here.
Kevin, do you have a last name?
Blair.
Kevin, how do you know these people?
Devin's my friend. That's his mom, and that's Matt and his mom.
Well, I know who the players are.
Yeah.
I asked you how you knew them. Devin is your friend. What about Matthew?
Was my friend.
Did you ever tell Mrs. Eagles that Matthew was using drugs?
Yeah.
When did you tell her that?
I'm not exactly sure when. It was a while ago.
Give me a year. Was it this year?
Yeah, I think it was this year.
I want you to try yes.
Yes.
What kind of drugs did you tell Mrs. Eagles that Matthew was involved with?
Cocaine.
And how did you know that?
Because I've seen him with it before.
Look at me. Because you've seen him with it when?
Previous to that.
Did he sell it?
No, I just seen him with it.
Tell me about the time that you saw him with it. Look at me.
All right. We were...
You don't like my Jack Nicholson? Go ahead.
I don't know. I've seen him with it. I'm not exactly sure when.
Do you use drugs regularly?
No.
Do you use cocaine regularly?
No.
Do you ever use cocaine?
No.
Did you ever try cocaine?
No.
So it was really an unusual occurrence when you saw Matthew with cocaine, right?
Yes.
Then I want you to tell me when it was. Tell me the circumstances, because after you saw him with the cocaine one time, you told Mrs. Eagles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, think. I want you to put on your thinking cap. Think. Oh, we may have to wait a while.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure when I remember seeing him have it.
I didn't ask you when. I asked you to tell me the story about it. Were you in school? Were you at home? Were you in the street? Were you at a party?
Oh, we were at a party.
Who was at the party?
Matt, me, Devin, a whole bunch of other people.
Fine. And tell me exactly what you saw Matthew do with the cocaine.
I seen him.
Look.
I seen him pull it out and play with it.
How was it packaged?
In a little bag.
He pulled it out of where? His pocket?
Yeah.
And what did he do with it?
He just looked at it. It was never, he didn't like pull it out of the bag or anything.
Did he say anything?
He was like, I got some coke.
You didn't see him do anything with it?
No.
And then he put it back in his pocket?
Mm-hmm.
And didn't use it during the course of the party?
Well, not that I remember seeing.
Now, when did you tell that to Mrs. Eagles?
I don't know. Maybe a month or two.
Mrs. Eagles, tell me what he said to you when he told you about the cocaine.
He told me that he knew for a fact that Matt and another individual had it, and that they had given Devin some.
Well, he didn't tell that to me just now.
Well,
he didn't tell that to me just now.
He said that he knew that they did the cocaine New Year's Eve.
It's not what he's saying now.
Well,
sit down. What grade are you in school, Devin?
9th.
Ever been suspended from school?
Yes.
How many times?
Twice.
For what?
Smoking and...
Smoking cigarettes?
Yeah.
In school?
On school grounds.
Close enough. How old are you?
15.
How old were you when you got suspended for smoking?
15.
So it was a recent suspension.
Last year.
So once for smoking last year. And then, what did you get?
Fighting.
Fighting. When did you get suspended for fighting? You don't worry, I'm going to get to you in a minute.
2 years ago,
2 years ago. Or last year.
I had, like, in-school suspension because of fighting last year.
And the year before that?
No.
Have you been suspended from school, either an in-school or an out-of-school suspension, more than twice?
I don't think so.
You know what?
I don't think so.
He doesn't think so. Have you ever been arrested?
No.
Did you pass any or all of your subjects last year?
Yes.
How many did you pass?
4.
And how many did you have?
About 8.
So you passed about 50% of your classes last year, is that
Well,
right?
Yep.
What are you doing this summer?
Well, I can't go to summer school
Why?
because I skip school too much. I have to repeat the grade.
So you have an attendance problem?
Yeah. Yes.
When you don't go to school, where do you go?
Stayed home.
Does your mother work?
Yes.
What kind of work does she do?
She's a medical transcriptionist.
You have brothers and sisters?
One brother.
How old is your brother?
18.
Does he live in the home or out of the home?
And
In the home. What does he do?
nothing.
So your mother has 2 children, she works full-time, and she's got 2 children who do nothing except
Yep.
make trouble. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Sure. You stay home from school, you do nothing. You get suspended from school, you do nothing. You pass half of your classes. You got an 18-year-old brother who does nothing.
Well, then, yes.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
On December 31st, I came home from work and I found him in my apartment.
Is that right?
No.
You mean she's lying about finding you in her home?
Yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rayetta Calderon says her son was falsely arrested when Sharon Eagles filed a complaint. Sharon says the boy was trespassing on her property.
Now turning over to this side of the table. How old are you, Matthew?
16.
Your last report card that you got, how many classes did you have?
5.
How many did you pass?
4.
What did you fail?
Math.
Were you in regular attendance in school last year?
Yes.
Ever been arrested?
Yes.
When?
When I was 15,
For what?
someone had left a stolen bike at my house.
You were arrested because somebody else did something wrong.
Yeah, the case was dismissed, though, because they
That
found...
doesn't necessarily mean anything, but you're telling me if somebody else did something wrong, they arrested you.
Yes.
And that was your only arrest.
Yes.
Now, this business about cocaine. Have you ever tried cocaine?
No, I have not.
Have you ever touched cocaine?
No, I have not.
Mrs. Eagles doesn't like you. You know that?
Yes.
And I assume you've known that for a long time.
Yes, Sharon.
Did she ever tell you not to come to her house?
Yes, she has.
Before you were arrested, she told you not to come to her house.
Yes.
And she told you not to come to her house before you were arrested. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, Sharon.
Did you go to her house again?
No, I didn't.
You mean after she told you not to come to her house, you were not in her house again?
Correct.
When did she tell you not to come to her house?
Maybe about a month before I was arrested.
Give me the month.
Early December.
So far, is that correct?
I told him numerous times, starting in September, maybe 2 years ago.
All right. But you knew he came to your house, and he came to your house invited by your son.
I did not know that he was going to my home.
Well, he didn't break into your house, madam. He came invited by your son, who was playing hooky from school.
I told him to stay away, and whether Devin let him in, I was at work, I had no way of knowing. But he was not allowed to go to my home at all.
When did you finally call the police?
I went over to the Juvenile Bureau on several occasions.
When did you finally call the police?
Then I finally called them in, I think it was November.
When was he arrested?
He was arrested in January.
Why in January?
Because on December 31st, I came home from work and I found him in my apartment.
Is that right?
No. No.
You mean she's lying about finding you in her home?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
Devin, Was Matthew in your home on December 31st?
Yes, he was. My mom came home early from work and caught me, Matt, and Kevin in there. We were at my house.
Is that right?
Before we were going to...
She says you were there. Her son says you were there. And your old friend Kevin, although he didn't even have to think about it for a minute, says that you were there. And that's why you were arrested for trespass. Because that's your claim. Your claim is that Mrs. Eagles had your son falsely arrested for trespass, and you want to be compensated.
Yes, Your Honor.
She told him to stay out of her home. He went to her home.
Well, he wasn't at her home the day that she said that.
Well, I don't believe that. I don't believe that he wasn't there December 31st. I have 3 people who say that he was there.
Your Honor, I showed up in court 3 appearances with witnesses and documentation at the courtroom. If she had my son arrested for those charges, she should have showed up at the courtroom. She never did.
Showed up is not
But
the
I had
issue.
witnesses
We are not
to
in.
prove my son was not at her home.
I'll hear your witnesses.
I don't have them all with me. I have Michael with me. He did pick my son up at 5 o'clock. I was home from work that day at 3 o'clock. Michael picked my son up from our home at 5 o'clock that evening.
When did you see him at your home?
It was probably about 3:45 or 4, because I distinctly remember I was sick that day and I went home early. They don't expect me home until after 6 or...
So you cannot account for where he was at 4 o'clock. Is
He
that
was home
right?
with me, Your Honor.
I don't believe that.
That is the truth.
I don't believe it. Listen, this is the problem, Miss Calderon. I believe that your son was told that he was not welcome in her home. If he was told that, and he acknowledges he was told that, he acknowledges that he was told that in early December, which means that any time after early December, he knew that the welcome mat was closed. This is not Devon's home. Devon merely lives there because his mother lets him live there. She owns the space there. Your son was there. I do not believe he wasn't there.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Sure.
Mrs. Eagle's not telling the truth right now, but on many occasions, we've known them for 4 years. My son and her son met in middle school. On many occasions, Mrs. Eagle would tell my son not to come to her house, or that she did not want the children hanging out together. Mrs. Eagles would then deliberately bring her son to my house, drop him off for days at a time.
Listen to me. That's okay. You have just acknowledged that she told your son not to come to her house.
Yes.
She could bring him to your house. You could say, I don't want him in my house. But once the owner of the premises says you are no longer welcome in my private residence, that's it. If you go there, you are trespassing. That's what she had him arrested for. But I have to tell you something. Just pay careful attention to me.
Yes,
It takes 2 to tango.
I understand that.
Okay. So that he's not the bad influence. Together, they're not good for each other.
I guess that's a better way of putting it.
Right. Now, as a parent, you say, listen, I got 2 bad kids. They're worse when they're married. So if I separate them, maybe I have a better chance of working with mine. So you have the right as a parent to say, I want to keep them separated. That's why I started with you. I don't want you to think that I believe that he is a bad influence on him. This one doesn't know whether he's a foot or horseback. He told you one story, he told me a different story, okay? But you are entitled to say, in my home, I don't want to see your face. And if you've done it and you've been unsuccessful, then you go to the police and you have him arrested.
And that's-
Period. End of discussion. Case over. Goodbye.
Wives are excused. You may step out.
I'm extremely upset that they could just go in there and stand in front of Judge Judy and lie
I didn't tell the truth, and they won by not telling the truth.
and say that he was not there.
She has lots of issues with her own children, so she blames everybody else's children for her son's problems.
My son's not an angel, but I just,
Caused a lot of trouble financially and everything.
I had no other recourse.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Carpenter versus Young. Step forward, please.
Customer service manager Andrew Carpenter is suing his ex-girlfriend, clerk Rhonda Young, for the unpaid balance on a car loan. Rhonda says as soon as they broke up, the deal went sour.
Miss Young was your girlfriend. She came to you at some point and said she was having some financial difficulties. She fell behind in her car payments. According to you, you loaned her money, some $800 and change, to make 2 car payments. So far, correct?
Yes.
And she didn't pay you back any of that money.
No.
Then she was in more financial trouble, so you agreed to take out a second mortgage on your house
Yes.
and loan her enough money to pay off the car loan so she wouldn't have any more stress. And the agreement was she was going to pay you $200 a month for 5 years until her loan to you was satisfied. So far, right?
Yes.
Is that pretty accurate so far?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she pay the car off?
She sent a cashier's check on the 9th of December.
Okay, so in December. So her first payment was due in January.
Yes.
And according to you, she didn't make January's payment.
Yes.
She did make February and March, but not January.
Yes.
So on April 1st, you took back the car.
Yes.
And you still have the car.
Yes.
But you say you've had it appraised for what you could sell it for. And it comes up a little short of what she owes you if you went to sell it. So you want her to pay the difference now.
Yes. I gave her a piece of paper also stating that she could make payment arrangements and contact me on paying this difference amount, and she said, no, see you in court.
Well, at this point, she's correct, sir, because you don't have fixed damages. Let us say, under the scenario that you have just outlined, I find her in breach of that contract, which enables you to take back the car. Did you make January's payment?
At the time we were going to go on a ski trip, he told me not to worry about it. I went ahead and sent it. And I said, okay, are you sure? He goes, go ahead and do it like that. But, you know, I'm going to have you write me checks after that, send them to my house, and I will send it to the mortgage company. So I did complied exactly what he wanted.
You didn't make January's payment. You made February and March. And
Yes,
when
ma'am.
did you break up, by the way?
The end of January.
And you didn't take the car back in February or March?
That is correct.
Not until April. So let us assume that I find that she breached the agreement by not making January's payment, and you had every right to take back the car. And your plan is to sell it, right?
Yes.
You have to do that. You have to sell it so that the damages that you have are fixed. How much did you loan her for the car?
$10,000.
And let's say you actually sell it and get $8,000 for the car, leaving $2,000 balance.
Yes.
And she has made 2 payments to you so far of $400.
Yes.
Which means she owes you $1,600.
What about the two car payments?
And the 2 car payments if I find that that was a loan,
She said she'd pay back.
along with this money, because you were her boyfriend. I'm not persuaded about these 2 car payments. But let's say you sell the car for $9,000. Say you find some sucker who's willing to give you an extra $1,000. That means that your damages are only $600. So when I say you don't have fixed damages yet, Mr. Carpenter, you haven't sold the car. Do
Correct.
we understand each other?
Yes.
So your action here is premature, and it is dismissed without prejudice until you go and sell the car. Got it?
Got it.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is case number 212 on the calendar in the matter of Bowden versus Lenore. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Officer Byrd, would you find out if this gentleman has a medical condition that requires him to have that thing around his head?
Looks like the answer is no.
Thank you very much. It is your claim that the defendant firebombed your car and also cut the wires to your satellite television all over some guy. The defendant says she did no such thing and you're really crazy. I assume this is somebody that you are either with or used to be with, is that right?
Used to be with
And what's that person's name?
Deontay Crenshaw.
Deontay.
Uh-huh.
Is that person here today?
Mm-hmm. He's over there.
The person with the medical condition.
Yes.
When were you with this gentleman?
Up until she set the car on fire.
And when was that?
June 10th.
Of 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And is that the same date that your satellite dish wires were cut?
Yes.
Now, when was he your boyfriend?
He's always been my boyfriend. She was not with him. We lived together. We've been together since '98.
Are you employed?
Yes, I am.
What do you do for a living?
Account rep at AT&T.
And you?
I lost my job due to her setting the car on fire because I wasn't able to go to work.
So you're not employed now?
No.
What does he do?
He works at Motel 6.
Doing what?
He's head of housekeeping.
What makes you think that she firebombed your car and did all of these other things to your house?
Okay. The car was set on fire Monday night. Sunday, she popped up on my front porch. I don't know how.
She came to your front porch?
Yes. I don't know how she got my address, but she popped up on my front porch. She was trying to plead her case about him and her or whatever.
So you spoke to her directly?
Yes.
That must have been June 9th.
No, you're
June 8th.
June 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right day, June 8th?
June 8th.
So June 8th, she came to your house. And what did she say to you?
She never said her name. She said, I'm Deontay's baby mama.
I'm Beyonce's baby's mama.
Yep, that's what
No,
she said.
that's not
That's
true,
what
Your
she
Honor.
said.
You're going to have to turn in
That's
a minute.
fine.
And why are you bothering with him?
Huh.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
And you said?
I said, okay, I have nothing to do with your relationship between you and him. We have our own thing, whatever, and that's that.
So that was June 8th. What happened on June 9th?
June 9th, she was calling, and so when I answered the phone, she said, put Deontay on the phone.
Okay, so she wanted to speak to Deontay. Did you call her house?
No.
Okay, so
I personally went to her house Sunday.
He was at your house? In
That
the middle of the night. So he was sleeping there. Why were you sleeping at her house?
Because I was over her house, I was sleeping. I was over there.
Shh, I don't want to hear anything. Stand up. What were you doing over at her house instead of being at home with Miss Lenoir and your son?
I was over her house cheating.
Well, actually, I had put him out this Sunday.
Yeah, we wasn't together.
Yeah, so I had put him out Sunday.
Why did you put him out Sunday?
Because the phone calls started coming, and I kept telling him, you know, this female keeps calling my house saying she's sleeping with you. If I find out it's true, you know, I don't have any proof, so I'm going to leave it alone. Sunday, I received a call, I'm sleeping with your man. I took the number off caller ID. I called 411, got the address. I went to her house because my friend stayed down the street. And I told her, look, he's not going to be there anymore. No need for you to call me. I don't need him. I work such and such. I don't need a man to take care of me.
You especially don't need him.
Exactly. So after I confronted her, she said, me and him has this. And I said, well, you know, if you don't mind sleeping with somebody else's man, that's you. But he's no longer going to be with me. So
leave me alone.
Yeah, and I said, he can come live with you now. And that's what I told her.
Now I'd like to hear the proof that you have that the defendant firebombed your car.
I have pictures of the car. And
I'll take a look at the pictures. The pictures are one thing. What proof do you have that she did it?
She also told me she did it also because she was calling my house.
That's not true.
She was calling my house.
No, she's not. I don't believe she told you she did it.
Exactly.
I have a witness right here, my next door neighbor.
Which witness do you have?
Eric. He didn't actually see her set the
Eric,
fire.
you want to stand up here?
Yes,
Eric, in your shorts. You thought you were going to a basketball game today. Come up here. Move over there, Eric. Would you post photographs for me, please?
Sure.
Could I say something?
No, I want to hear Eric. And Eric, you're a neighbor?
Yes, I'm a neighbor.
And this firebombing happened in the middle of the night?
Well, on that day, I was doing some drywall for my brother. I do, drywall and lay. I was doing his house. It was like about 2:30 at night. And I happened to go in the back. I seen the young lady out there slicing the tires. So I'm just looking at it, and I'm figuring that it's probably just she ain't got mad at her boyfriend or something, and just cutting the tires. So I'm just standing up there looking at it. So she looked at me, I looked at her, and she went on back down the alley. So I proceeded to keep working. So I figured I was going to go on there and just close up that night. So I went back on the front. I see her tan car parked across the street right there. And I'm just standing on the porch. And she kind of like looked and kind of sitting in her car for a minute. And then she drove off, but I never seen her no more.
So you didn't see her firebomb the car?
No, I didn't see her firebomb come.
Good. Thank you. Sit down.
Your Honor, can I say something, please? Okay.
I'd like your next witness.
This is my roommate. She was there when she popped up on the front. I never called this woman house or anything like that.
Is there something you're not understanding? I would like you to bring on a witness who saw her firebomb your car. You have anything to contribute to this case at all, or yes or no? The answer is yes or no.
Yes.
Do it fast.
The morning the car that was on fire, my cousin, Lachey, came and woke me up, and I walked up on the back porch. I seen her and Deontay sitting on the back porch looking at the car. He apologizing to my cousin about how his baby mama set the car on fire and all what she did or whatever, saying that he was going to help my cousin pay for the car and everything, which he didn't.
Is that right?
I told her I apologized for the car being burnt. What happened to her mama car?
Could you speak slowly so that I could understand this, please? You apologized to who for what?
I apologized to her for her mama's car being burnt. I shouldn't apologize if it's supposed to be all over me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Possible somebody else could have firebombed your car. I don't know how many people he was with. How many people were you with, Deontay?
10.
What?
Just them two.
Nah.
And later today,
It's your claim that Mr. Turner stole your equipment.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I say something, please? The Lord said that he wanted to donate them equipment to the ministry.
Very good.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lachey Bowden says the mother of her ex-boyfriend's child, Teresa Lenore, firebombed her car.
Is he still living with you?
Not really, no. He keeps our son every day. He comes to my house and keeps him every day while I'm at work.
When does he work?
He works at night and on weekends.
So then, it wasn't true when you said to her that he's not going to be at your house anymore, don't bother to come over, because he is there every day.
Well, not living. That's what I was trying to tell her. You don't have to call to see if he's there, you know.
Where does he live?
At his mom.
So is what you're telling me, you don't have an intimate relationship anymore?
Not anymore, no.
Is that right?
Correct.
Well, Deontay has to be with somebody. And I don't know how many people he was with. He could have been with her. How many people were you with, Deontay?
10.
What?
Just them two.
Nah. It's possible somebody else could have firebombed your car.
No, it was only her. She kept calling and everything. She called my house when he comes to her house. After he leave my house, he goes to her house. She calls me tomorrow, Deontay is here. Then she was hollering him in the background stating, you made me do it. You shouldn't have lied. You made me do it. You shouldn't have lied. She wouldn't have said it if she wouldn't have done it.
Your Honor, can I speak, please?
Yes.
She's lying. There's no way. If I'm going to do something, which is so stupid, I wouldn't tell her that I've done it.
Ms. Lenore, you appear to be an intelligent young woman. The only unintelligent thing that I know about you is him. I don't understand why someone who holds a responsible position, maintains themselves, takes care of their children, why they would do something so crazy as to commit arson, which is really what this is. Because what you're accusing her of is really a criminal act. And I assume you filed a police report.
I have copies.
I would like to see the police report that you filed and their follow-up.
And also, it's my mother's car, and she's still paying on that car.
Stand up here. You. Sit down. You, up here. How long have you known the plaintiff?
Well, I don't really know her.
You knew her enough to come to court with her, is that
Yeah,
right?
somebody told me that she wanted to, talk to me.
Okay. Now, when did you tell somebody for the first time that you had witnessed somebody slashing her tires?
She had came to me and said, asked me what my name and stuff like this. I need to talk to you. I'm like,
When?
It was the next day.
Well, this police report is interesting because the police report said that they canvassed the entire area for suspects and witnesses to no avail.
He doesn't live at the apartment next door. He works on
You
the
don't have
apartment
to
next
live
door.
there. You call the police and you say, I have a witness.
Right. I didn't know he said anything when I called the police.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Go ahead.
We went to the police department, and they said, this so-called witness that you say you have, if he's not, a good witness, you all are going to get in trouble for falsifying information. They asked for proof of what she harassing me. She told them I was doing all these things to her. She had no proof. They listened to my answer machine, which I tried to save. It erases after 15 days. They heard all of these threats on my answer machine from her. That day, she was held at jail. They released me. They said she had no proof. I would not do it.
Well, I don't believe that there's sufficient proof to establish to my satisfaction, in any event, the allegations that you make against the defendant, that she firebombed your car, that she cut the wires on your satellite dish. It's possible that she did it. It's also possible that he's got a string of girlfriends that you know absolutely nothing about, who are just as annoyed as she was. In any event, you sound to me, Madam, Miss Lenore, as if you deserve better. I don't know if you're going to look for better, but it sounds to me like you deserve somebody who is at least prepared to act responsibly. That's not him. You Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think she got it basically where she deserved, which was nothing. I didn't do it, and I'm just glad it's over with.
This is not going to end. This is not going to end. She started harassing me about this man. There's a problem. There's something wrong with her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of O'Neill versus Turner. Step forward, please.
22-year-old warehouse worker Larry O'Neill is suing his former pastor, Bishop Kendrick Turner, for the return of his music equipment. Kendrick says Larry donated the items to the church.
Mr. O'Neill, according to what I read in your complaint, you joined the defendant's church. What kind of church was that?
It was Joe's Outreach Temple.
And did they have a formal place in which they worshipped?
Yes, they worshipped in a building, and then they moved into their house.
You mean their house where they lived?
Yes.
And you had some musical equipment
Yes, ma'am.
that you used and allowed the church to use.
Yes, ma'am.
When you decided to leave the church, you wanted your equipment back, and it's your claim that Mr. Turner stole your equipment. Mr. Turner says that you made a donation to the church, and you can't have it back. What brought you to the defendant's church?
He told me that he was helping people out with music to do music, gospel music, and I was doing gospel music at the time, and I decided to join his church for him to help me get my music put out, and he told me that he would help me with my music career.
So he's a preacher and an entrepreneur. Do you help people with their music career, sir?
I'm not going to say entrepreneur, but what I do is I help a lot of local gospel artists get out there.
When you say get out there, you mean get out there and
Yes,
earn
ma'am.
money?
Yes, ma'am.
Being sort of like an agent.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you get the equipment from, Mr. Turner?
From his house, because he said that the Lord said that he wanted to donate them equipment to the ministry.
Okay. Now, when did he say that, sir?
It was 2003. It had to be in January, ma'am.
Are you a non-for-profit organization?
Yes, we are. We're tax exempt. And
as of when?
As of when, I do not have that.
Give me a year.
It was last year, 2002, when the church started.
And you operate this church out of the house where you live?
Ma'am, we originally...
Just answer my question.
Yes, ma'am.
How large a house is it? What are you looking it up for? You live there.
I'm not sure about the size, ma'am.
How many bedrooms does it have?
We have 2 bedrooms, yes, ma'am.
And the church operates out of what room?
Out of the front room, ma'am.
Now, where do you do your agenting?
What I do is I normally run ads and stuff in the paper, and I allow people to come to my home.
So you do both your agenting work, sir, and your ministry work out of the front room in your house, in
Yes,
your
ma'am.
2-bedroom house?
Yes, ma'am.
When was it that Mr. O'Neill made the donation? January of 2003?
Yes, ma'am.
And when was it that Mr. O'Neill...
It wasn't January.
Well, step up and tell me what date it was. You're his wife, so you probably have a better memory.
It was, because I keep the records, it was January when he came into the ministry, but it was around April. It was a couple of months after that.
So it was April that he made the donation.
Right.
Thank you.
Around the end
Sit
of
down.
March.
And when was it, Mr. Turner, that Mr. O'Neill asked for his property back?
It was just recently ago.
So that would have been about a month later.
Yes, ma'am.
1 month later, he asked for it back.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, why, Mr. O'Neill, did you ask for your equipment back, sir?
Because it belongs to me.
And you were no longer interested in being part of the ministry?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you, Mr. O'Neill?
22 years old.
Have you ever been under psychiatric care?
I have supposed to been going for medical treatment.
What kind of medical treatment, Mr. O'Neill?
For a psychiatric problem.
Are you currently taking any medication?
No, ma'am.
How you doing? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty fine.
Are you living with your parents?
I'm about to start. I just moved out on my own, and my parents, I think they want me to stay with them, so I might stay back home with
Okay.
them.
You're his father? Would you step up here for a second, Mr. O'Neill?
Baby, go ahead.
Who purchased this musical equipment for him?
Well, we all purchased it together, but it was his equipment. And actually, when it left my home, I had no knowledge that it left.
When are you planning on having your son come home to live
He's
with
been
you?
home for the last 3 weeks right now. I have an appointment for him for psychiatric help on the 10th of this month.
Okay.
And I have him close to home.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that. Mr. Turner, I want you to listen to me very, very carefully,
Yes,
sir.
ma'am.
3 days from today, Mr. O'Neill and his son are coming to pick up all of his musical equipment. You will have it all ready for them Do you understand me?
Yes, ma'am, I have no problem with that, ma'am.
Very good. I am not suggesting that you took advantage of Mr. O'Neill, and certainly someone who is a minister would not want to take advantage of someone who was not necessarily in a psychological position to make a gift. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good.
Can I say something, please? Because I think I do not have the right to give that back, because he said the Lord, he said that the Lord said. You know, I take that very seriously when somebody said the Lord said.
I want you to take this more seriously, Mr. Turner. I say that you're supposed to return it 3 days from today. Do we understand each other?
I have no problem with
Good.
that.
That's all.
Excuse me, Miss. Yeah, this is case number 227 on the calendar in the matter of Skinner versus Wilson. Good,
Thank
Judge.
you.
How you doing? Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. and Mrs. Skinner, you hired the defendant's daughter to house sit for you. You were going away on vacation?
A 3-day weekend.
And it is your claim that while the defendant's daughter was there, some items were stolen from your house, totaling almost $5,000. And also that the defendant's daughter threw a party, used your car without your permission. But primarily, the car wasn't damaged or destroyed. Primarily, you just want the value of the items that were stolen. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're suing her mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Because she's a minor. How old are you?
I'm 17 now.
Why don't you stand up next to your mother? Maybe 17, but you're taller than your mom. So why don't you tell me how you found this young lady to house sit for you?
Well, we worked together, and I felt since I worked with her, I could trust her daughter that nothing would happen to my house while we were gone for a few days. So we made the arrangement, and I paid them $40.
Who did you make the arrangement with?
Both of them.
Well, tell me where that took place, when it took place, when did you go away?
Okay. I made the arrangement partially with Natasha at work, and then they all came over to the house, and we went through where all the medicine for the animals were and how they were to be taken care of.
You mean Miss Wilson brought her daughter over to your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Had you met her daughter before?
Yes, ma'am.
And when she brought her over to the house, it wasn't agreed upon that Mrs. Wilson was going to be there to house sit, only her daughter?
It was also agreed that on one particular night, Natasha and her husband was going to come over, and they were going to be at the house, watch movies with the girls, and that they would be supervised at all times.
What do you mean they would be supervised at all times?
She would be watching the house and checking on them because she would be going to the house twice a day.
So is what you're telling me, Miss Skinner, that you made arrangements with Miss Wilson that her daughter was going to sleep at the house and take care of your animals?
Correct.
How many animals do you have?
3.
But that Mrs. Wilson was going to be there twice a day and was also going to spend one night at the house with her husband.
Actually, what it was is she was going to be there twice a day to check on it because she was going to pick Christina up, take her to work in the morning, leave her son there to stay at the house during the day. Then when Christina got off, she would take Christina back to the house, pick up her son so the house would never be empty.
So she was just doing a chauffeuring service. She wasn't going there to check on the house. She was going to drop off and pick up her children who were house sitting.
Right.
All right, well, that's different.
Well.
And you may have felt comfortable that she was going to be there, but that wasn't twice a day checking on the house, Miss Skinner.
Okay.
Right?
I felt as a friend she was going to do that, yes.
And that's a favor. But that's not what she was doing. She said, I'll make sure the house is covered with my children so it won't be vacant. Okay, what day did you leave?
Friday, August 2nd.
What was your arrangement with Christina with regard to friends?
We had agreed so that she wouldn't be alone since she didn't know the area, that one friend could stay with her at night. That way she wouldn't be alone in a neighborhood she didn't know.
Good. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you have more than one friend over?
Yes.
How many friends did you have over, Christina?
A total of 3.
Including you?
No, without me. I was the 4th.
And what were these friends doing at your house?
It was my best friend, one of my best friends, Brandy's birthday. So we picked her up and we were just sitting there watching TV and just talking.
So there were 4 of you all together?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I have a copy of the police report, a copy of citations that she was issued in my car at 4:15 in the morning in Arlington.
What were you doing in her car, Christina?
I had taken it to drive back to Arlington
pick up friends, and that was the time when I was taking Brandy and Courtney back home.
What were you doing riding in her car?
I used it to go pick up friends.
Well, you weren't allowed to do that, right?
Right.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
May I say something?
Sure.
Okay. First of all, before we even agreed to this, she knew my daughter did not have a license to drive. And prior to that, I had asked her, whatever you do, please do not let her have the key. We talked about this at work, and we talked about it again once we made it to her house for everybody to meet. I didn't know until after all these happened that she had given my child the keys to her car, in case of emergency, mind you, which I understand. But she's 16. She
Just a
knew.
second. You gave her the keys to your car?
We left the keys at the house because they had the house keys and the car keys. In case of emergency, if the house was on fire, the car needed to be moved.
I told her I was 15 minutes away.
They were
Just a second,
on
Miss
the
Wilson.
kitchen table.
Miss Wilson.
I know.
You're not suggesting to me that it's their fault that your daughter took the car.
No, but...
Good! I didn't think you were.
Wait a second.
I didn't
But they
think
should have known better, though. She knew she didn't have a key. She didn't have a driver's license.
Miss
She
Wilson
barely
and-
knew how to drive. She was
Miss Wilson,
16.
Do you see my mouth moving?
Your Honor?
Do you see my mouth moving?
Yes, ma'am.
The fact that items may have turned up missing in that house may have absolutely nothing to do with you. However, don't even suggest to me that you think in some warped way that it's her fault that your daughter got behind the wheel of a car and drove her friends around at 4 o'clock in the morning. Don't tell me it's somebody else's fault that she did the wrong thing. Just pay attention. Pay attention. It's not somebody else's fault. It's her fault. It may not be your fault, but it's her fault, not
She
hers.
helped create the situation by giving her the key. She's 16. Who's the adult? Her or her? She should have known better. If I had somebody watching my house, I already know the story. She doesn't have a driver's license. It's two teenagers.
Just a
I am
second.
not
You
going
see
to
this
hand her
table?
the key.
You see this table?
Got it.
Do you remember the title of my second book?
Beauty fades, dumb as forever.
That's the title. You don't get it. It's not her fault.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So what you're saying is you don't trust your daughter. You don't trust your daughter not to succumb to temptation and to do the wrong thing. Is that what you're telling me?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Linda and George Skinner are suing Natasha Wilson for the cost of 7 rifles. The Skinners claim the guns were stolen while Natasha's daughter was watching the house.
Let's say she didn't hand her the car keys and the house keys all on one ring, but your daughter went into her dresser drawer and found the keys. You would be standing there saying to me, she should have taken her keys with her. She's a 16-year-old girl. You can't expect a 16-year-old girl to be responsible enough not to succumb to temptation and use a car. That's really what you're saying to me, right?
I think
is that what you're saying? Just answer me yes or no. I don't need a whole
Yes.
speech from you. Okay. Well, then if that's what you thought, you shouldn't have said that your daughter was responsible enough to stay in her home and be paid. Because if someone can't be trusted, I don't care if they're 10 or 12 or 14 or 16, they can't be trusted. So what you're saying is you don't trust your daughter. You don't trust your daughter not to succumb to temptation and to do the wrong thing. Is that what you're telling me? Is that the way you were brought up? Well,
No,
that's
ma'am, I
unfortunate.
was not brought up that way.
That's unfortunate. If you don't trust your daughter not to do the right thing, then you should not say to these people, my daughter is responsible enough to stay in your home. Because the car is one thing, but there are other things in the home. There were 3 animals there, and if she's not responsible enough not to use a car that she's not been given permission to use, she's not responsible enough to make sure that 3 animals are taken care of, so that if you had some idea that your daughter was irresponsible, you should have told her, I'm sorry, my 16-year-old daughter is not responsible. I will not allow her to stay in your home. You didn't say that. You led her to believe your daughter was responsible enough to oversee.
But there were conditions to that, though.
I'm speaking, was responsible enough to oversee her home and her dogs. That still doesn't make you liable. All I'm doing now is giving you a hard time because you don't get it through your head that it's not her fault, but her fault. We understand each other? Good. Now we understand each other. Now, you also found that other items were missing.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Items were missing, such as some rifles.
Yes, ma'am.
And a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
She's not responsible She's responsible, but she's a minor.
Correct.
You have the ability to select someone responsible to take care of your home. And if you selected her, and if something happened in your home, you can't say her parents are responsible. You can't.
I would just like to for you to see this, to give you an idea that how long she had somebody in our home.
I don't care. She knew she did the wrong thing. This isn't somebody who's saying to me, I thought I could use it, that it was okay. She knew she did the wrong thing. Only her mother's making excuses. But her mother is not responsible for what she stole, or her friend stole, or somebody else took from the house when she left the house open, when she took her friends home at 4 o'clock in the morning. Her mother's not responsible. And under the law, you can't collect any money from her. So what you have to do, and what everybody has to do, if they decide to leave their home and entrust their home to somebody, you make sure that person is not a minor. So if things come up missing, you have somebody to sue. But you can't say, listen, I have to blame somebody. You have to blame yourself. She's a teenager, and when you leave teenagers in a house, unsupervised, 24 hours a day, trouble happens. I remember leaving my teenage children in a house, and we were just gone for an overnight, and these were not babies. And getting a call that there was a huge party. What kind of party? 35 people in a party. You don't do that. When you leave teenagers in a house, you never know what happens. When they have an empty house, it's party time. You know, the word goes out over the waves. Now they goes over internet. Party time. Bottom line is, you didn't hire her, nor did you pay her. The only arrangement that you had with Miss Wilson was she was going to drop off and pick up her children so that the house would be covered all the time by her children. You have a responsibility to select the right people to take care of your house. If you don't blame somebody else.
Actually, I paid Natasha.
Did you pay her to give to her children? Or did you just give her the money?
I gave her the money to do...
Ms. Skinner, you're pressing it. She was not in charge of your house. Her 16-year-old daughter was in charge of your house. That's who you left in charge of your home.
Yes.
And if you chose to do that, and if she did the wrong thing, her mother is not responsible. You can't sue her. And she's not legally responsible. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I feel like because she had given her the key, she was able to get in that car, go pick up her friends, and have a little get-together.
Till today, they never admitted that they even left the house or that there was anybody else there besides the two girls.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Carroll versus Lampron, step forward, please.
23-year-old sales manager Jeff Carroll is suing ultrasound technician Paula Lampron for damage to his car after he ran over her dog. Paula claims Jeff was speeding. She is countersuing for the death of her pet.
Mr. Carroll, you were driving your car down the street, and it is your claim that the defendant's dog, which was unleashed, slammed into your car, causing damage. Ms. Lampron said that you were speeding. You had to have been speeding down the street. I'm not sure whether you saw him. Is that right?
I didn't see him.
Didn't see him. But you had to have been speeding down the street when you hit her dog, and as a result of that, her dog was killed. I think the dog had to be put to sleep.
Yes, it did.
And you are counterclaiming for the value of the dog.
And the vet bill.
And the vet bills. Okay. Mr. Carroll, describe this street to me. Tell me what it looks like. Is it a highway? Is it a 2-lane street, 4-lane street?
It's a 2-lane street. It's very narrow. It's a residential area. 30 miles an hour is the posted speed limit.
What happened?
I was proceeding at the speed limit, 30 miles an hour down the road, when all of a sudden a loud crash to the passenger side. I looked in my mirrors. I didn't see anything. I pulled over, saw that it was a dog. I was in severe trauma. I saw Paula. She asked me to help. I said, sure. We helped get the dog into the truck.
Into whose truck?
Into the back of her truck. The dog
what kind of a dog was this?
A golden retriever. We got the dog loaded up, and she proceeded to the animal hospital.
And what happened to the animal hospital?
The veterinarian helped me get it out of the truck. He said the injury was extremely severe, and he would do anything he could to save her. He called me and told me that there'd be no chance of her recovery, and she was in severe pain. What was she doing
without a leash, Miss Lampron?
I have 2 golden retrievers, mother and son. That was the mother. And I was just leaving my house to do errands. Both dogs were sitting by the side of my truck, waiting to get in.
Unleashed?
Yes, but on my property.
But unleashed?
Yes. And they don't run. They're under my control. However, the female dog is very obsessed with her ball, and she had a ball in her mouth. The ball dropped out, and she ran to the end of the driveway to catch it, to get her ball. And it just happened in a split second.
Well, the end of your driveway is not where this happened. He wasn't driving in your driveway.
No, he wasn't driving in my driveway,
Right,
but he
so
was driving
the
very
ball-
close to the road, and I have pictures of the end of my driveway where my dog was. My dog was not out in the middle of the street, Your Honor.
He didn't say it was out in the middle of the street. The dog hit his car as it was coming down the street. Can I see the photographs of the damage to your car?
Actually, photographs of her property as well with it.
What kind of car is this, sir?
It's a Toyota Supra,
What year?
1993,
What's your deductible?
$500.
You still have the car?
No, I do not, actually.
Why not?
I sold it.
When?
Actually, 3 days before I came here, I just got all the bodywork finished. And
You have the paid bill?
no, the deductible covered. I mean, my insurance covered it. You know, basically.
You have the name of the place where you took your car to be fixed?
Custom imports.
You have your insurance paperwork?
Yes, I do.
Let me see it. How much did you sell the car for?
$20,000.
$20,000?
They don't make the car anymore. It had a lot of additions to the car. It wasn't stock.
When did you purchase the car?
2 years ago.
And how much did you pay for the car?
$17,000.
So you made $3,000 on the car.
Not really. I put a lot more into it over the 2 years.
This is an estimate, is that right?
No, that's what I got from my insurance company.
Okay. Custom imports.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you took the car to be fixed?
Yes.
You know anybody who works there?
Yep, Tori is who I deal with.
And in what month did you have this car fixed?
It's April.
What made you wait from January to April?
I had to save some money.
And so you actually paid the $500 deductible?
Yes, I did.
And who did you pay that to?
To the custom imports.
And how did you pay them?
Cash.
Really? You gave them cash? You have a receipt from them that you gave them $500 in cash?
No, I did not.
Why not? Didn't they give you a receipt when you paid the bill?
Not really. It's kind of a friend who did it.
You understand where I'm going with
Yes,
you, sir?
yes.
You got my drift?
Yes.
Perfect. As long as we understand each other. You know what my father used to say?
You want me to grab one out of the air? What do you used to say?
He used to say to me, "Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining."
Okay.
Your dog hit his car. Your dog was off the leash. It's your fault. That's it. Unless you can establish to my satisfaction, which you can't because you didn't see him, that he was exceeding the speed limit and that is the reason that this happened. And it really isn't. But the reason it happened is that your dog was off the leash. Because your dog hit his car, the side of his car, according to this. I see some damage in the picture that he handed me that had nothing to do with the dog. Mm-hmm. Certainly, Bird, this doesn't look like it had anything to do with the dog, right?
No.
Right? The dent, maybe, but not this part.
Right.
Right. So, you understand, you have no claim, no legitimate claim against the plaintiff. And since the plaintiff, even if I believed what he said about taking it to his friend Tori at this place, who's a good friend who took care of the car for him, and he actually paid him $500 in cash for which he has no receipt, I find that he made $3,000 on the car, and as far as I'm concerned, that's all he's going to make. Case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step. That's case number 270 on the calendar in the matter of Ransom versus McCaffrey. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Ransom, it is your claim that the defendant owes you some money for work that you did in his landscaping business?
Yes, you're right, Your Honor.
You were a day worker for him?
Yes, I was.
How long did you work for him? From when to
Total
when?
3 weeks.
And how much were you supposed to be paid?
I was supposed to be paid $9 an hour.
How much money do you claim he owes you?
He owes me for 39 hours plus $25 that he didn't pay me from the previous week.
Okay. Then you also say that when you tried to collect the money, Mr. McCaffrey called the house where you were living, and you're living in a clean and sober home environment?
Yes, I am.
You formerly had a drug or alcohol problem?
Yes, I did.
What kind of problem was it?
It was a cocaine problem, Your Honor, and at the time I felt that I needed help. I was clean and sober at the time that I did put myself into the program, and because I want to stay clean. And so,
how long had you been there?
I've been there now a total of 3.5 months.
How long were you there when you went to work for Mr. McCaffrey?
I was there for about a month and a half.
And it is your claim that when you tried to collect this money that you claim Mr. McCaffrey owes you, Mr. McCaffrey called the home where you were living and spoke to the director there and slandered you.
He did that.
Okay. Mr. McCaffrey says the following, that he paid you everything that he owed you, and he's kept the record of that, and that he never slandered you to anybody. Is that right, sir?
Your Honor, he is owed money. I have a check for his final pay.
Okay.
And I called to get an address to mail the check.
So that was the only phone call you made, just to get an address where to send the check, and you made no other statements to anyone about the plaintiff?
I did make a statement about the plaintiff to beware that he, on the job, he had shown me photographs of a pornographic nature and asked me to be involved in matters which I didn't want to be involved in sexual nature. And,
well, why don't you be more specific? He showed you photographs. Sir, what kind of photographs did he show you?
Nude photographs in compromising sexual positions of himself in various...
Of himself?
Yes.
With other people?
Yes, ma'am.
Men or women?
Women.
And what kind of a proposition did he make to you, sir, when he showed you these photographs?
Said, this is my portfolio if you're interested.
This is my portfolio if you're interested. What did you think he meant by that?
I presume that you wanted to involve me in things of a sexual nature, and I was not interested.
Well, these pictures didn't show Mr. Ransom with other men. It showed him with women.
Correct.
So what did you think he wanted you to do? He said, this is my portfolio if you're interested. I'm serious.
I'm absolutely serious, too. I don't know what his entire intent was, and he didn't explain that, but I know it's something I didn't want to get involved in.
Mr. Ransom.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever show him any photographs that were funny?
No, ma'am, I have not.
And you have a check for how much for him, Mr. McCaffrey?
I have a check for $25.
What about the 39 hours that he claims you owe him?
Some of those, I have a journal which I kept, and I did pay him in cash. I wanted to pay in check. He insisted on having cash. I did pay what cash I could. There are some days that he claimed that he worked that we didn't work because the dump wasn't open. I'm in dispute with his record keeping.
All right, let me see his record keeping. Let me see the records of when you say you worked, sir.
The dates are here, Your Honor. They're documented down here.
I see where he says he worked 12 hours on August 11th, 9 hours on August 10th, 9 hours on August.
I have flagged the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, which was a Sunday, and there's no dump open, and the 11th right here in my journal.
Okay. And that was the 11th was his last day of work?
No, I don't think so. It could have been the 12th, but he left early that day, and there was an argument that day, and he took the bus home. Left, right. The last record I have of a cash payment was on the 11th.
Well, if you listen to me, Mr. McCaffrey, you say you kept accurate records of these cash payments. Now you tell me that you had an argument with him on the 12th. The 11th couldn't have been his last day because you didn't pay him on the day that you had the argument with him when he left. So that couldn't have been the 11th because the 11th you said you paid him, according to your note to yourself, in cash.
I agree, absolutely. That's the last time, but I can't say for sure if the Tuesday was the last day or if there was a day lapsed in between that because I don't have any entries after that.
So clearly there was several hours that he did work for you that are unaccounted for in your journal.
Right. Right. There could
well,
be.
How many hours? Was it 8 hours? Was it 7 hours?
No, he showed up in the morning and I showed up later with another fella and another friend of mine. This would have been about 10 or 11 o'clock. And I came to find there was a broken chainsaw on the job. I asked who did it, and that's where our argument ensued.
Okay. Mr. Ransom.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's move away from the hourly work that you say you're entitled to. I think that it's probably someplace in between. All right. Your primary accusation is for the slander that you say. Do you have any witnesses to this slander,
Yes,
sir?
yes, Your Honor. I do have the assistant director is here.
What's that person's name?
Carol Martinez.
Ms. Martinez?
Yes, she is the person that received the call.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He said Mr. Ransom showed up under the influence of drugs. He brought drugs to work. He tried to get me involved in his drug lord thing, and he continued on and on.
And later today,
she did not stop at the stop sign. She accelerated the car, and the ball bounced up and hit the car window.
Noel, what you just gave me was a whole lot of Who Shot John.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cleve Ransom says his former employer, Kevin McCaffrey, is withholding his wages. Cleve also claims that Kevin slandered him to his counselor at a sober living house.
Ms. Martinez, did there come a time when you received a call from Mr. McCaffrey wanting to know the address of the home that you direct?
Yes, ma'am. I received a call on the morning of August 18th. The gentleman on the phone, at first he didn't identify himself. He asked me for the address to our facility. I then inquired to why do you need our address, because I not only have male clients, or I have women clients there. He stated to me that he was Cleve Ransom's former boss and that he had mailed a check prior, the week prior, and Mr. Ransom claimed he never got it, and that he wanted to send a check to our facility for Mr. Ransom certified mail. So I gave him the address, and before I could hang up, he asked me, do you do room searches there? And I said, sir, why would you inquire about room searches? He said, well, Mr. Ransom brought sexual explicit pictures to work of all your female clients and all different sexual positions, and I wanted you to be aware that that is going on in your facility. I said, that is not going on in my facility, and we would never tolerate any sexual misconduct. And then he said, well, do you do drug testing? And I inquired again as to why would you ask me about drug testing? He said, well, Mr. Ransom showed up under the influence of drugs. He brought drugs to work. He tried to get me involved in his drug lord thing, and he continued on and on. I left my office with a cordless phone and walked out of my office. My office is there at the facility, and walked upstairs, and I rang Mr. Ransom's doorbell. And when he opened it, I pushed my speakerphone on the thing. He continued for about another minute and a half, telling me how he's a manipulator, a con artist, that he's not fit to be in society, that I need to be careful of what he's doing to our females. And so I ended the conversation. I then contacted the executive director, who was out of town, and I said to her, you know, I got this phone conversation. What do I do about it? She said that I needed to place Mr. Ransom on a 2-week total restriction to the facility, and that I needed to conduct a complete room search, drug testing. I needed to interview some of our long-term clients that have been there, our female clients that have been there for a while. So I did that. Mr. Ransom was placed on a total restriction. I conducted drug test, a random drug test on him, 6 to be exact, during that 2-week period. And I did a complete room search of his room 3 different occasions. I never found any photographs. He passed every single drug test, and Mr. Ransom never received anything certified mail from Mr. McCaffrey.
Do you want to respond further with regard to Ms. Martinez's statement about the extent of your conversation with her?
The validity of the statement, yes, it's false. It's primarily false as far as going on for an hour and a half. I did
You shouldn't
warn,
say you went on for an hour.
or a minute. I'm sorry, a minute and a half. And I did warn her of the pictures that he had brought to work and the nature of his activity at work, which I thought
Which was what?
was inappropriate. Pornographic photos.
I'm asking you, sir, about the drug testing.
Oh, drug testing. I have no clue what she's talking about drug testing, and I can respond.
Did you ever say to her that he's a lowlife and he shouldn't be in society?
Absolutely not.
Did he say that to you?
Yes, ma'am. And when I had it on speakerphone, and Mr. Ransom heard it also.
Mm-hmm. She says you made those statements. I don't see that she has any particular axe to grind, sir. I also question the validity of part of your defense, because you said to me that the reason you had an argument with the plaintiff was because you asked who broke a chainsaw. That resulted in an altercation with Mr. Ransom, and he left. That's what you said caused all the problems. Whereas in your sworn answer to his complaint, you say that the reason that he became angry is because you insisted on paying him by check and he wanted to be paid in cash, that he became abusive and walked off the job. So you couldn't even get your story straight between your answer and today. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, $2,700. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Some of his work was very good. I was also satisfied with the fact that we were very friendly at one point. I did buy him 2 pair of boots. I did buy him lunches. I was as friendly as I could afford to be.
He actually wanted to get me booted out of the program from the beginning.
Why would you show someone pornographic photographs unless you're interested in getting him involved in that type of lifestyle, which I want no part of?
Went out the door when he started just yelling, "I'm not a kid, I'm old enough to be his father," and he don't respect that.
We all live with the consequences of what we do, and we all know what the real truth is in our lives.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Grimm versus Bynum. Step forward, please.
Student Ingrid Grimm is suing the great-grandmother of her daughter's friend, Amy Bynum, for damage to their pocket bike. Ingrid says Amy's great-granddaughter, 9-year-old Michaela, wrecked it during a birthday party.
Miss Grimm, your daughter was having a birthday party. What birthday was she celebrating?
Actually, it was 2 of my daughters, my 11-year-old and my 13-year-old.
How many children did you have at the party?
There was approximately 20 to 25 children.
And Miss Bynum's granddaughter was one of those children, and you are her guardian, is that right?
Yes.
It is your claim that Miss Bynum's granddaughter rode a pocket bike. And it's a motorized bike, is that right?
Yes, gas.
And she damaged the bike. You want her grandmother to pay for it.
Yes.
Tell me how that happened.
Well, it was understood at the party.
Don't tell me what was understood. Just tell me what happened.
During the course of the party, we had allowed the children to ride. We have approximately 8 different bikes. And they were given certain rules that they had to follow in order to be able to ride the bikes. And Michaela did not follow those rules and therefore damaged the bike.
What rule didn't she follow?
Well, they were only supposed to go a certain distance, still within visual range of our house, which is approximately 8 to 9 houses, which is 1 block's length. Turn around and come back. And then she was
And
supposed
who was
to take
watching
turns.
them at that time?
I was outside in the garage, and then my boyfriend, Rodney.
Well, who was watching Michaela? That's Michaela over there?
Yes.
Who was watching Michaela?
Everybody was, because the
No,
children.
not everybody. Were you watching her?
No, not at the time.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Miss Grimm, I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions. Okay. Then I'm going to end this torture.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ingrid Grimm says 9-year-old Michaela Nash wrecked her twin daughter's pocket bike while riding it at their birthday party. Michaela's great-grandmother, Amy Bynum, says Ingrid allowed Michaela to ride the bike without her consent.
Michaela, I want you to stand up next to your grandma, okay? How did you know that Michaela had damaged the bike? Did somebody come and say Michaela fell off the bike?
Yes. It was about 5 children that had come and told us that.
Who did they come and tell?
They told both me and Rodney.
So that what you're telling me, Miss Grimm, is that neither you nor Rodney were watching Michaela. Is that correct?
Yes, we were.
You weren't. Because you just said to me, 5 children came and told me that Michaela had had an accident on the bike. And I said, who did they come and tell? And you said they came and told me and my boyfriend, which suggests to me that neither you nor your boyfriend was supervising the child when she was on the bike. Right?
Okay, you can say that, yes.
You see, you don't have to say anything yet. You're going to tell me what happened to the bike, Michaela, very fast. Tell me what happened to the bike.
I ran into the curb and then the tire wouldn't move.
Were you driving someplace where you weren't supposed to be driving?
No.
Were you driving up the block?
Mm-hmm.
Had other children driven to the same location?
They drove a little farther.
Really? And who was watching you when you were driving?
Rodney.
Rodney. Where was he?
He was at the house.
Was he there when the other children were riding further than you rode?
Yes.
Were you hurt?
No.
Miss Grimm, I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions.
Okay.
Then I'm going to end this torture. Let us say Michaela, who was driving a motorized bike in the street. The law permits you to do that?
Yes.
How fast do they go?
Anywhere from 15 to 20 miles, I think.
15 to 20 miles an hour?
Yes.
How old are you, Michaela?
9.
Miss Grimm. Let us assume that, heaven forbid, Michaela had an accident on this bike and was injured. Do you think you would be liable for her injuries?
Yes.
Why?
Well, because she was at my party that I was supervising.
Correct. So why in the world would you think that her grandmother is responsible for the damage to the bike?
Because she did not follow the rules and she went further than where she was supposed to.
That was your responsibility to make sure that she didn't, not her grandmother's. When you invite children to your home to a birthday party, you become an insurer of their well-being. It is your responsibility to supervise them all the time that they're there. And if you elect to allow them to ride on a vehicle that can go 15 to 20 miles an hour, if there's an accident, you are 100% responsible. Did you tell her grandmother you were going to be allowing her to drive that bike?
All the parents were aware.
Were you made aware of that fact?
No, I was not.
I asked you whether you made Miss Bynum aware that you were going to allow her granddaughter to ride this bike.
All the parents were aware.
No, you can't answer the question, Miss Grimm, by saying to me all the parents were aware. You can't tell me what they were aware of when I ask you a simple question, which is, did you tell Miss Bynum that her granddaughter was going to be using a motorized vehicle?
I told all the parents of
When
the
did
children.
you tell Miss Bynum?
Well, when she dropped the children off.
What did you tell Miss Bynum?
I let them know that.
No. What did you tell Miss Bynum? What did you tell Miss Bynum when she dropped off Michaela?
Well, we introduced ourselves, and I thanked her for allowing her granddaughter to come to the birthday party. I let them know that what was...
Not you let them know. I want you to tell me what you said to Miss Bynum.
I don't recall.
Miss Bynum, is anything said to you about your granddaughter riding a motorized bike?
No. I would not have left her at the party if it was.
But anyway, Miss Grimm, you are an insurer of the minor children left in your care and custody when you invite children to a birthday party. If they damage something in your home, it's your fault. If they hurt themselves when they damage something in your home, it's your fault. So you can't invite more children to a party than you're prepared to supervise properly, and I certainly would exercise better judgment than allowing a 9-year-old child to get on a motorized bike that's capable of going 20 miles an hour. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When I heard that somebody had fallen, my first instinct, well, are they okay?
I saw her when I went to pick her up.
I didn't know who it was that had fallen.
Her on the bicycle flying in the wind.
My main concern was that her granddaughter was okay first.
She was pretty cautious at first, but as she got more comfortable, I'm guessing she started like going a little faster, acting well like a kid would, I guess.
I was trying to turn in the driveway and the tire hit the curb.
She jeopardized her life.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Young man, take your hands out your pocket, will you?
This belongs to a friend who's visiting. I thought you would like to see her. Is she sweet? Miss Anthony, this is your son?
Yes.
It is your claim, Miss Anthony, that the defendants owe you a whole lot of money because one of their employees pierced your son's nose without your permission. And you
Correct.
are how old, sir?
14.
You have a place in the mall?
Yes.
And you know that you're not permitted to pierce anyone who's a minor without parental permission.
Yes.
Who did the piercing? That would
I
be
did.
you. How old are you?
18.
18. How long have you been working at the store?
About 5-6 months.
Did you start to work there when you were 17?
Yes.
Are you related to the owners?
Just employee there.
How did you get the job?
One of her friends that works there recommended me because I used to work with her.
What special training do you have to be a piercer?
Not any.
Nothing.
No.
Well, who taught you how to do it?
She did.
You mean you don't need any special training?
Basically what we do is pierce ears and sometimes nose.
Do you have a license for piercing?
I don't think that we need a license, no.
What else do you pierce other than ears and noses?
Only two.
Only ears
ear
and noses?
Yes.
Why don't you pierce any other parts of the body?
Oh, that's against the law, that's what I know. Because that belongs to body piercing, we're not doing ear piercing.
Well, your ears are part of your body and your nose is part of your body. Last I looked. Who are you?
I'm her son.
So the piercings that we do, it only requires a gun. So we don't do the ones where you need a long needle. So only the nose and the ears are capable with a gun.
I could think of some other places where you could use a gun.
You can, yeah, technically you can, but it's
That
not,
I've
it's
heard
not very
about.
safe.
Okay, sit down. Okay, here are the facts that we know. Your son, who was 14,
Yes.
speak up,
Yes.
went to their shop and lied to them, right? You lied.
No.
Well, sure you did, because they knew you were underage, and you kept telling them that your mother gave you permission.
No.
What?
No.
You mean you just walked in there and she pierced your nose?
Yes.
Is that right?
Nope.
No. I don't believe that for a minute. I don't believe that for a minute, young man. Who did you see when you walked in?
The young lady right there.
And what did you say to her?
Do you pierce noses here?
And what did she say to you?
Yes. I asked her how much is it. She said $5. So I got it done, and then I left.
And?
And I went home, and my mom got mad.
Okay. Bird, do me a favor. This baby wants to go back inside. Would you take the baby inside? Don't hurt the baby.
You know how much I love dogs. Come on.
There's a soft side of him. Okay. Let's get... You mean this young lady didn't say to you, how old are you?
No, not at all.
Did you ask him how old he was?
Yes, I did.
And what did he say?
He was 13.
And what did you say to him?
That he needed a parent or a guardian that was responsible for the piercing.
And what did he say to you?
He said that she was buying some other stuff around where we work, around the mall.
Put your hand down, Miss Anthony. And what did you say to him?
I needed to see the mom and make sure that she was responsible for the piercing. So he left and he came back. And he said, like, it's fine. And he brought the money. And I'm like, okay. And I told him, I need your mom. He said, she's around here. She said it was okay, that you could do it. So I went ahead and pierced the nose, and then he left. And by the time, well, at the end, I didn't see the mom.
Okay. Did you know that wasn't the right thing to do?
Yes.
So why did you do it?
I thought the mom was there.
Well, that was clearly the wrong thing to do.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Okay. Step up here. Show me where you had your nose pierced.
Here.
Turn around.
I have pictures.
I don't need any pictures. I see his nose.
Sorry.
I don't see anything. Show me where.
I took it out.
Well, I know you took it out, so I don't see it anymore.
It was on the left-hand side.
Well, it's all gone, right?
Yes.
Your mother made you take it out,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Did she get very angry with you?
Yes.
What'd she do?
Take it out.
And you took it out.
Yes.
Step back. Now, Miss Anthony, the employee did the wrong thing.
Yes.
Why do you think that's worth $5,000? Explain that to me.
I mean, she had no right pissing. I didn't give her permission to do anything.
Agreed.
You don't understand what I'm saying?
I
But,
agree.
mean,
Just a second. I understand English, and I understand your statement that you didn't give permission.
Right.
Right. You have a 14-year-old boy and an 18-year-old employee, and he goes in there knowing full well that he doesn't have your permission, full well that he doesn't have your permission to have his nose pierced. So he did the wrong thing, and they did the wrong thing. My question to you is, he has no mark on his nose. He wasn't injured in any way. He had no infection whatsoever. You were very, very fortunate. There is no damage at all other than the fact that you were aggravated. You explain to me why his misdeed is worth $5,000.
Well, I mean, I was upset for a while. I mean, I couldn't sleep. I mean,
you couldn't
he
sleep.
had pus coming out of it. That's why I took the pictures, and I have a police report.
No, show me a medical report that it was infected.
Actually, you know what? To be honest with you, I went to go try to get it, and at the same time, when I took him to the doctor, he was having an asthma attack at the same time. And the doctor she did look at it, and I went to try to get the paperwork from the doctor, and she told me
Don't tell me what she told you, that's hearsay.
Well, she
Don't tell me what she told you, that's hearsay. Miss Anthony, you're not following me, madam. Not everything is a lawsuit.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you demand money?
The courts told me to go
No. Don't tell me what the courts told you. The courts don't speak. You tell me how much money you demanded from them when you went into their shop.
And later today,
Did it make you nervous with...
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Letitia Anthony claims store clerk Paulette Orozco pierced her teenage son's nose without her permission.
So what I'm saying to you is, What makes this non-injury to your son, who did the wrong thing? She didn't chase him in the mall with a piercing gun and pierce his nose.
No, she didn't.
He went in, listen to me. He went into her store. They did the wrong thing. They didn't follow protocol. You're absolutely entitled to say, you did the wrong thing. I want my money back, and I want you to pay me some sort of damages for the medical bill that I had as a result of this. But what makes you think this non-injury is worthy of a $5,000 lawsuit?
Well, I mean, she was wrong, and she lied and said he was 13. He was 14. It happened on his birthday. He had just turned 14.
Well, maybe he was slow and didn't remember.
Maybe so. I don't know.
But that's not my question. What difference does it make whether he was 13 or 14 and it was his birthday? What makes it worth $5,000 is my question.
The negligence and the stupidity that they did. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, it was just uncalled for. But what I'm trying to explain to you is, yes, he probably was negligent. I mean, he went in a store just like you said. He did that. But, I mean, it comes to a point in time, little kids at his age do certain things they're not supposed to. That is true. But, I mean, the way she talked to me when I went to go talk back with her after she did the piercing.
Well, what did you tell her? I
told her, I said, you pierced my son's nose. And she said, yeah, I did. I said, he's only 14. As a matter of fact, today is his birthday. He was 14 to that day that she did it.
I heard you. You don't have to repeat yourself.
And I talked to her and I said, well, why did you do that? She said, well, I told him to go. Something she was telling me. They was both talking.
She was telling you that she told him to go and get his mother.
No, both of them was talking to me at the same time.
Good. What did you tell them?
I told them that I was going to take them to court because
Did you demand money?
The courts told me to go ask her.
No. Don't tell me what the courts told you. The courts don't speak. The courts don't speak. Judges speak. You weren't before a judge.
Yeah.
So courts don't speak. You tell me how much money you demanded from them when you went into their shop.
I went in there and I asked her, I believe it was $3,000, I believe.
$3,000?
Yeah.
You went in and asked for $3,000. What did she say to you?
She said, oh, no. She did. She said, I'll give you $5 back. And I said, $5 back? What did you give me $5 back for? Because I had gave her $35 for a chain that I had made for him for his birthday. And I paid her for his chain, for his name, and she gave me the receipt. Then she snatched the receipt back out of my hand, and I'm like, I need my receipt. And she was like, well, I'll apologize. She was real snotty to me.
Just a second. So you've been in that shop before?
I bought jewelry from her.
Why do you say that with an attitude, madam?
No, I didn't say with attitude.
I said to you, you've been in the shop before. The answer is yes.
Yes, I have.
How many times?
Maybe 2 or 3 times.
Has your son ever been in the shop with you?
Not with me, no.
So the first time you went in there, which was the same day that he had his nose pierced, you said you wanted $3,000.
No.
You told me, listen, Miss Anthony, you just said that you went in there and you said he's only 14, today's his birthday. You told me a moment ago that he went in there on his birthday. Yes. So it was the same day as he had his nose pierced.
Yes.
Anything else anybody wants to say to me? Yes, what is it?
Yeah.
It was actually, she came in and she initially asked for $7,000. And then she said, my mom said, oh, we don't have that kind of money.
Oh,
okay,
God, that is a lie.
I'll settle for $3,000.
He wasn't even there.
Well, sit down.
He wasn't there, Your Honor.
I don't care if it's, listen to me, Miss Anthony, I don't care if it's $7,000 or $3,000. I don't know where you're operating from. No injury whatsoever. They did the wrong thing. You're absolutely entitled to something for your aggravation and inconvenience. For your aggravation and inconvenience, you're entitled to $250. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Actually, I'm really still kind of mad.
There's nothing we could do. We apologize to her.
They were in the wrong.
All parties in the matter of Tennant versus Holly. Step forward.
Carolyn Tennant is suing her son's friend, 22-year-old Jeffrey Holly, for stealing her golf cart and damaging it while driving drunk.
Miss Tennant, this young man was a friend of your son's?
Yes, ma'am.
You all went camping together?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had a golf cart that sort of takes you to and from, I guess, a lake or shopping or whatever?
Well, it's like the major mode of transportation out there.
I know that people have golf carts. Yes. Mr. Holly took your golf cart without your permission.
Correct.
And he was drunk.
Yes.
You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And he had an accident.
Yes.
Your golf cart was damaged.
Correct.
And the golf cart of the other people was damaged.
Yes, ma'am.
The other people sued you as the golf cart owner.
Yes.
Successfully.
Yes.
And do you believe that Mr. Holly has the responsibility of compensating you for both that judgment
Yes.
and the damage to your golf cart.
Correct.
Mr. Holly says that it wasn't his fault,
Yes, ma'am.
and he should have been able to go to court and prove that, and since he didn't have that opportunity because you proceeded without him, he's not responsible. Did I identify your position, Mr. Holly?
Yes, ma'am, you did.
I have to find out a little bit about you, sir. Age,
Age 22.
occupation,
Basement waterproofing and foundation wall rebuilds.
number of times arrested.
Since I turned 18, 3 times.
For what?
Disorderly conduct, a malicious assault, and unauthorized use of heavy equipment.
Were you drinking during any one of those 3 arrests?
Yes, ma'am, the disorderly conduct.
Now, have you ever had convictions for any of those things?
Yes, ma'am.
Ever go to jail?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
I did 1 week, and then I got out on a signature bond.
Are those cases over?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Holly, you and booze don't get along, sir.
Yes, I agree, ma'am.
Do you want to tell me what happened with Miss Tennant's golf cart?
Yes, ma'am, I do. That night, it was Memorial Weekend, you know, and there was a bunch of us out there together, and, you know, everybody being of age recently, we all decided, you know, we were going to get drunk and have a good time. They have dances at the barn, whatnot.
You know that you don't have a good time when you get drunk.
Yeah, I'm starting
You
to
really
realize that,
understand
ma'am.
that. You know, most of the time you don't remember. Most of the time you act stupid. Most of the time you get sick afterwards. You really have a much better time if you're sober. That doesn't mean you can't drink. That just means that you have a better time if you're not drunk. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
But you got drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
And?
And I decided to take the golf cart keys from the top of the fridge. So, I mean, I figured, you know, there was people driving it all day and most of the night. I figured, why not? You know, I mean, we were just going to go around the block and come right back. There was another golf cart passing filled with some people that lived down at the next camper down. And I thought they were going to stop, and I guess they thought I was going to stop, and it didn't work out that way.
So?
So I ran into the side of them. They proceeded to get off the golf cart and just completely make an enormous deal of it. I mean, they're golf carts. They don't go over 10 miles an hour.
Oh, they go faster than that.
And during all this, I mean, everything started getting out of control. People were yelling at each other. One of the ladies on the golf cart, her fiance decided to sucker punch me. Then I was held from defending myself once I found out in that township I could legally defend myself once somebody put their hands on me. I was held from defending myself. And I mean, why couldn't I get any, you know, closure on that? Because I did make a police report on it, and I figured
You
not
wanted closure. Tell me how you wanted to get...
We're going to make a deal. My brother was going to give the guy $1,500 for his golf cart.
No. I'm talking about you wanted to get closure from being sucker punched, you said.
Yeah, either a chance to defend myself at that moment in time
to
or...
punch him back? You wanted to punch him back?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were prohibited from doing that. How, sir?
Because Alan Reining grabbed me and basically pushed me backwards and bear hugged me and wouldn't let me.
Wouldn't let you punch him back?
Yes, ma'am.
And that would have given you closure?
Yes, ma'am.
You've been watching too many psychological programs that seem to be proliferating in daytime television, sir. Not everything gives you closure. You usually refer to the fact that you want closure when somebody in your family dies. You go and visit them and you say, now I have closure. You know, I've seen them, I've said goodbye. Closure is not usually a thing that one refers to, punching somebody back. That doesn't give you closure. Mr. Holly, you're a very polite young man. Do I make you nervous?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that why you're sweating?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Did it make you nervous when you appeared before the other judges?
Not really.
But I scare you.
Yes, ma'am.
That is a really, really good thing. I've not had a particularly good day today. That is the only thing that's made my day today. The fact that I make you nervous enough to sweat. You owe Mrs. Tennant money. You owe her the money that she spent or will spend to fix her golf cart. And you owe her the judgment that was entered against her for the accident you had when you took her golf cart without permission. Because if you go back, Mr. Holly, these are the objective facts. I'm not going to really scream and yell at you because you've been so polite. I'm going to say it easily so you can get my drift. A, you were drunk. You should never have gotten behind the wheel of any instrument that was moving because you weren't exercising good judgment. B, you got behind the wheel of it without permission. So in effect, you stole it. You had an accident. You're responsible to reimburse her for any out-of-pocket expenses that she had. And her out-of-pocket expenses were?
$1,782.50.
$1,782.
And 50 cents.
And 50 cents. That's your liability, Mr. Holly. That's your legal responsibility. And if you don't want to incur that kind of obligation, you're not supposed to get drunk and act stupid so that you really don't know what's going on. You're not supposed to take people's property without permission. You're not supposed to get behind something that goes even 10 miles an hour when you're drunk. All of those things you did. Just say, it's going to make you feel better, and you're going to stop sweating. It's my fault. It's my fault. I was drunk. I took your property. I caused you aggravation. I'm sorry. I will make you whole. And if you can't do that, Mr. Holly, I will. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1782.50. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Oh, I think that she just did a wonderful job.
I mean, I'm a little, upset about it.
Used poor judgment in not trying to pay me back.
I do have an alcohol problem. I can admit to that.
And somebody that's not responsible is not welcome.
I have land all over the place I can go.
No, he is no longer welcome back. No.
I make $15 an hour. I mean, I'll pay it, have it done out the way, and I can take my...
Marcia Lambert claims her mother's neighbor, Tammy Kedward, owes for spray painting vulgarities onto her car and punching her in the face. Tammy claims Marcia was sleeping with her husband. She is countersuing for emotional distress.
Miss Lambert, you were having a romantic relationship with the defendant's husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
I assume this was the husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
This was about a year ago?
A little over a year, yes, ma'am.
Miss Kedward lost it with you one day, came to where you were staying, and assaulted you.
Yes, Your Honor.
She admits that she assaulted you. She also admits that she pled guilty to a simple assault, and she received a fine. Her defense to your action for damages for both your medical bills and your pain and suffering is that you weren't injured. She is counterclaiming for her medical bills, she says, because you've caused her a lot of stress. When did you meet Miss Kedward's husband?
About July 9th of 2005.
Where?
At my mother's house.
What relationship does he have with your mother?
They're the next-door neighbors to my mom.
Were they both living together at the time?
Yes, they were.
Well, when did you start a relationship with Mr. Kedward?
After he told me that he had asked Tammy for a divorce.
But they were still together?
Sort of, kind of.
They were still living under the same roof?
They were living, yes.
Big mistake on your part. Big. When did you start the relationship?
What exact date?
Yeah.
That it turned romantic?
Yes.
Was August 28th of 2005.
So it didn't take long. Now, when did Miss Kedward assault you?
On August 31st.
Tell me about it.
I was over visiting my mother. My car was parked in the back driveway. She came over and spray painted my car with some obscenities and bright orange paint. I saw her do it. We went back inside to call the police. She knocked on the front door, asked me to come outside. My mother came outside with me. She was yelling all kinds of profanities. And
That's not true.
And I was standing between her and my mother tried to explain some stuff to her, and I was looking at my mother. She reached over, grabbed the back of my hair, yanked, jumped on top of me, punched me, blood went everywhere. Meanwhile,
punched you where?
In the nose, and then punched me again in the cheek. Meanwhile, my mother managed to pull her off of me, and my 82-year-old grandmother was standing on the porch calling the police.
And you were arrested?
No.
Taken into custody?
No.
Did you press charges?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Miss Kedward. Why don't you tell me what happened on the 31st of August?
I drove up from work. I got out of the car, and she came out of her mother's house and said
that
something.
That is a lie, Your Honor.
Listen to me. I cut her off when she interrupted you. Don't speak until she's finished. Go ahead.
I got out of the car, and she came out of the front door and said something that I didn't understand what it was that she said. Nevertheless, she said something. And I just went inside, and I called my husband, told my husband that she was saying something to me.
But you didn't know what?
I didn't know what. It was something.
Well, why would you, just a second, Ms. Kedward, why would you call your husband if she said something that you didn't understand?
Because I had found out 3 days prior that there was something going on between them.
Okay, did you confront your husband with it?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He told me the truth. He told me that they were having a relationship, but that it was more as a friend relationship, that he didn't say that it was not intimate. He just told me that basically they had been doing a lot of talking on the phone.
So when you came home on the 31st and you claimed Miss Lambert said something to you, called your husband, and your husband said what?
He said, look, I don't know what's going on. Why don't you just go over there and talk to her about it, and y'all figure it out, and then you call me.
Is that what you said to her? Why don't you just go over there and ask her? Just that's either a yes or no.
Yes.
That was the first time that I ever thought of going over there.
So your cheating husband tells you to go over to the woman's house and to talk it out with her.
Yes.
And you'd listen to him.
Well, it's not that I listened to him. It's more that I thought, go over there. Sounds like a great idea. Why don't I just go over there and find out exactly what she said? And it was probably not the greatest decision in the world, but
Well, first thing that you did, you went over and you sprayed her car because that you paid for, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you painted her car before you went to ask her
Correct.
what she had said that you didn't hear.
Right.
And then what happened?
I went over and
You sprayed her car.
I sprayed her car, went back inside and...
Back inside where?
My house.
What happened to speaking to her and about finding out what happened?
That was after.
So then you came out again, worked up a really good mad.
I was infuriated, to say the least.
Fine. So you came out.
I had asked her numerous times, very nicely, please leave my husband alone.
Why didn't you ask him?
I asked him.
So,
but
and
in
what did he
fact,
say?
She was the instigator.
Stand up. How tall are you?
6'3",
How much do you weigh?
260,
What do you do for a living?
mechanic.
Strong?
I guess so.
Can you walk around?
Yes.
You can walk away from her, can't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Sit down. Get what I mean? Shh. Get what I mean?
Yes, ma'am, I do. And
yeah, listen, there's only one person that owes you the responsibility and the respect and has taken a vow.
You're exactly right.
That's him.
You're right.
Not her.
I felt like if she had any compassion or any feeling that she would have backed off and she would have had respect, at least for my child.
He's supposed to have respect for your child.
I understand that. I truly believe that he did make a bad decision.
Right. But
She
so why
was
did you
the
go
one-
over? So you went over there, you assaulted her, and you lost it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, then you have to suffer for that. Okay, Ms. Kedward, what kind of consequence did the criminal justice system impose when you pled guilty to assault?
I had a fine of $341 and a Class C misdemeanor.
Tell me about the surgery that you had 3 months later.
I had actually 2 surgeries to try to correct. I was having trouble breathing through the right side of my nose.
Can I see the
add
medical report?
something,
Yes,
Your
ma'am.
Honor?
Yeah.
She told my husband, he asked her the next day after the assault, are you okay? And she told him, it's no big deal. The same thing happened to me about a year ago when a girl hit me in a bar.
Okay.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Shh, just a second. Let's say that's true. What difference does it make?
So what's to say if she had any surgeries that it wasn't to correct what had happened then?
It's possible it was. That doesn't leave you. That doesn't. Shh, quiet. That doesn't let you off the hook.
I understand.
She doesn't have to sue for any medical expenses. She can just sue for pain and suffering.
I understand.
Good. Okay, so the first study date in the emergency room was September 1st, and it did say previous surgical changes are noted. Okay, so you had previous surgeries in your nose. Is that right?
From 92.
Okay, good. Now, after this happened on August 31st, did you continue a relationship with Mr. Kedward?
Yes, I did.
For how long?
It actually ended August 1st of 2006.
I don't think that's true, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
that's a bunch of bull.
Now, you were at my mother's house.
Listen to me. Whether it lasted 9 months or 10 months or 12 months, it doesn't make any difference. It lasted beyond that. Was Mr. Kedward living with his wife during that time?
He went back to her the end of November of 2005.
Okay, but you continued the relationship with him months after that.
Right.
Not smart. What was he telling you all this time?
Just that he wasn't sure what he wanted and that they had a lot to work out if it was going to work and that he still loved me and he always would.
Well, Miss Lambert, why did you continue the relationship with him?
It's not the first time she's done this. I'm sorry.
Takes 2 to tango.
Yes, ma'am.
His feet work in both directions. If he's back with you and sweet-talking her, that's not a good
thing
thing.
about it is, Your Honor, you say I'm strong physically. I'm assuming that's what you're asking. You know, what about mentally when you have a woman like this calling you all the time and not leaving you alone? Yeah. Hey,
You don't really want an answer to that question, sir.
Well.
You don't want an answer to that question, Mr. Kedward.
When I asked Miss Lambert to leave my husband alone, my words to her were, "For God's sakes, Marcia, I live next door to your mother. Please just stop."
She used very bad judgment.
She told me that she would be living next door to her mother.
Miss Kedward.
That's a lie.
She used very bad judgment, especially after he came home in November.
He never
To live
really
with you.
left home.
Don't tell me he never really left home. Stop me seasick. Still.
Yes, ma'am.
He exercised very bad judgment. What he's trying to tell me is he may be strong physically, but mentally he's mush. That's just an excuse. What he's trying to say is, how can I withstand the wiles of Jezebel? That's ridiculous. If
that
you bought it,
that was not what I
quiet.
was saying.
Quiet. There are all kinds of temptations in this world, madam. And you hope that when you marry somebody, that they're going to be able to withstand the temptations. And if they can't, it's their fault. It's not somebody else's fault. In any event, she's suing you for $4,000.
Yes, ma'am.
That, she said, represents her medical bills. You are clearly responsible for that. I want to hear about your counterclaim. You have 1 minute.
I went to the hospital that night and was in the hospital for 2 days following. I was extremely stressed out over the whole situation. I asked her repeatedly to leave my husband alone. She told me she would do what she wanted to do when she wanted to do it. And I lost it. And I have to admit that
I'm talking about your
I went to the
counterclaim.
hospital and I was there for 2 days because of the immense stress that this, I don't even want to call her a woman, has put me through, that she continues to put me through to
What
this
about
day.
him? Why don't you sue him?
I married him for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in front of God, in front of all of our friends. And it's my choice to forgive him, and we have been through counseling.
Perfect. Listen to me. He's the one that owes you the responsibility of
And
doing
he's
the right
paid
thing.
me.
Doesn't she owe us to leave us alone?
I have. Excuse me?
Excuse me? Outside. Put him out.
Come on.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, sure.
I was under so much stress from the immoral actions of this person that I suffered a miscarriage. My child has had to be in counseling. I have had a lot of issues because of her, and to this day.
Because of them.
Yes, ma'am.
Because of them.
She instigated it.
Because you don't get it. You have to put it in your head. He owes you the responsibility of doing the right thing. She doesn't. He has a contract with you, moral contract and a legal contract. He violated the contract, and I would have very little sense of an obligation to mitigate your damages if Miss Lambert did not continue the relationship after November, when she knew that the two of you were trying to work things out. Miss Lambert fully understood that. From November until, she says, August of 2006, she continued a relationship with him. That's going to hurt you, Miss Lambert, because then you knew that what you were doing was interfering with a relationship, and there is a cause of action. It's a cause of action in common law called alienation of affection. That means you are contributing to alienating the affection of her husband, and you know what that's going to cost you? $4,000. So I rule in your favor on your lawsuit in the amount of $4,000. And I rule in your favor on the counterclaim in the amount of $4,000. Neither one of you are getting anything. That's it. Goodbye.
Linda Banks is suing her neighbor, Herbert Robertson, for accidentally shooting out her windows with a BB gun. Herbert claims he's a better shot than that.
Miss Banks, Mr. Robertson is your neighbor, and it is your claim that he shot out some windows in your home with a BB gun.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Robertson, while he acknowledges the fact that he was shooting his BB gun, said that, A, it's impossible for the gun to have pierced the windows of your house, because it would have to go through a bunch of trees, and B, it would be impossible anyway because he's a very good shot. And he was shooting at squirrels, and he knows that because he's such a good shot, he would not have missed and damaged your property. Those are your two defenses. Is that right, sir?
Pretty much.
Tell me where I'm wrong. I like to know where I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, I might miss on occasion.
Oh.
But, like I said, we're in front of the big tree, so.
Okay. Miss Banks, ever had any trouble with Mr. Robertson before?
Yes, I have.
With what?
About 5 years ago.
Stop playing with that, please. It's distracting me, and at my age, nothing should distract me when I'm trying to work. Yes.
Approximately 5 years ago, Your Honor, he installed a pool improperly in his backyard, and that pool ruptured, and the water came down my backyard because he lives here and I live here, and approximately 19,000 gallons of water came into my basement. And what I did was I asked him to come over to survey the damage. He did, and his comment was that it wasn't that bad. But because we're neighbors and I tried to handle it civilly, I settled with his insurance company for $1,200, and there was a lot more damage than that, let alone the time. And I asked him to just help me clean it up, and he refused to do that. This time, when I discovered the damage, I said I wasn't going to let it go.
Since the incident 5 years ago, I assume that the relationship between the two of you has been strained.
Yes.
What date were you shooting at squirrels, Mr. Robertson, when Miss Banks came over and told you had damaged her windows?
Oh, she never did.
Who did?
I did. This guy. I mean, I was out in the backyard one day, and he hollers at me and says, you know, you shot my garage window. I said, well, I don't know if I did, but if I did, I'll replace it. He says, don't worry about it. I just wanted you to know about it. And so ever since then, we quit shooting the BB guns.
Well, when was this, sir, that you told him he shot out the window?
It was the third week of July. His son was out shooting and actually shot over top of my head.
How old is your son?
16.
Don't you know that you could hurt somebody with a BB gun?
If you hit somebody, it'd probably sting.
Well, if you hit him in the eye, it could blind him.
Probably could.
If you hit him in the ear, it could make him go deaf.
Probably could.
So why do you do it?
I didn't.
No, why do you let your son play with a BB gun?
Well, you know, I imagine there's probably 40, 50 kids in that neighborhood got BB guns.
I don't give a rat's behind about 40 or 50 kids. I'm asking you, why do you let your son shoot a BB gun?
Because I don't see anything wrong with it. It's my yard. If he wants to shoot a pop can or something in the backyard, you know, that's no problem. You know, this guy's saying he got one shot over his head. I doubt it. How would you know?
Because you can hear it coming through the...
You can't hear a BB.
Mr. Robertson.
Yeah, it's like, may I say something?
Yes.
I mean, it's like we're talking about the swimming pool. You know, 19,000 gallons of water didn't go in her basement. You know, I did go and survey the damage. It didn't look that bad.
Went into her basement?
My insurance company took it.
When I'm speaking, you see, you may be able, is this your wife?
Yeah.
You may be able to interrupt her. Don't interrupt me.
No, I was speaking.
No. But when I start to speak, Mr. Robertson, you have to stop. That's the way we play here in my playpen.
That's fine.
Good. Can I see the damage to your house, please?
Yes, ma'am. I have police reports as well, if you would like to see those.
I would.
And then also I've included estimates.
Good. How many windows?
3 windows, and then the truck windshield.
Well, either you or your son have lousy aim, sir.
Would you mind asking this man if he did agree, you know, that I told him I'd take care of the window, and he said, don't worry about it. I just wanted you to be aware of it. Because after that date, we never shot anymore.
When you first...
Shh, don't answer him.
It's like rock damage to me. No BB did that.
Yes.
Judge Judy, I would like to add, originally, the first incident he did offer to pay. The second incident was August the 11th, the date of the police report.
And on the second incident, how many windows were shot out?
That's when we discovered the damage of the second additional, the bedroom window, and then the truck window.
Got it. Still have the BB gun, Mr. Robertson?
Yeah.
Still let your son use it?
Like I said, nobody shot it since he said I shot his garage window out.
Well, you don't know that, sir. You do work, don't you? You do
No,
work.
I don't.
You don't work?
No.
Why not?
I'm disabled.
What's the nature of your disability?
Back.
You
I've
have a
had
bad
5
back.
back surgeries.
Really? How can you shoot a BB gun with a bad back?
A BB gun?
Yeah, how can you pick up a BB gun?
Well, how much do you think it weighs?
It's kind of hard to shoot. Well, incapacitating. It seems to be if you can do this, you can sit at a desk and answer a phone.
Well, I'm just saying, I offered to pay for it. He said, don't worry about it. And that was the end of the shooting.
He doesn't want
that.
you to know. Listen to me. He doesn't want you to worry about it. He wants you to pay for it. There's a difference.
I offered to pay for it.
Good.
Ask my wife.
Oh, I won't. She has to go home with you.
For
that she has
you
my
done made
sincere
your mind up.
condolences.
And like I said, you know, I thought you were innocent until you're proven guilty.
That's what we just did.
No, you didn't.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Teacher's aide Stephanie Fair is suing her landlord, John Gonzalez, 29, for wrongful eviction and ruining her living room furniture with a water hose. Gonzalez says her story is made up.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise.
Judge, number 151 on the calendar in the matter of Fair versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Fair, the defendant is your former landlord.
Yes.
And you're suing him for several things. First, for wrongful eviction and the cost of your relocating to a new apartment. Second, you are suing him for damage that he allegedly did to your furniture. And what's the third thing you're suing him for?
Harassment.
Oh, harassment. Okay. When did you move into his apartment, and how did you find this apartment?
I found an apartment through one of my coworkers that I work with. They went to church together. He told me one of the ministers at his church had an apartment available. The neighborhood I was living in was a very bad neighborhood. So I went and met John, and he said I could move in. I paid him. I moved in. We became friends. After we became friends, he started dropping by all the time, coming by when I have company, coming unannounced, letting people in my house when I'm not at home.
How do you know that?
Because when I got home, one of the witnesses was in my home, and he admitted he let him in.
We'll get to that in a minute. Go ahead.
And he soaked my couch with a water hose that was stored in his garage.
Just a second. How did he soak your couch with a water hose?
It was in his garage.
What was it doing in his garage?
I stored it there.
What, was that part of your rental agreement?
No, I asked him, I had received another couch, and I asked him could I put it in his garage, and he said yes. He had the only key to the garage. He watched the people put it in the garage, locked the garage up. One particular night, it was a confrontation between my sister and I one night. He banged on the wall. He turned around, then he came at 1 o'clock in the morning, knocked on the door. My daughter's father was visiting, asked him, could he please come back at a reasonable hour? He got very indignant, said, no, I demand for her to come outside right now. Get your so-and-so hand off of my door, referring to my door. He told him, no, you would have to talk to her in the morning. The next day, he called me on the phone. He left a message, said I had to make other arrangements. If I did not come and speak to him, that I was going to have problems out of him, that I was going to have a problem. Then he gave me a 3-day notice when I didn't owe him any rent. And since then, it's been a nightmare.
Hold this on a second. You went on and gave me a whole long story. I asked you a question. How do you know he soaked your couch?
I seen him.
You saw him?
Yes.
It's fair. Tell me how you saw him damage your furniture.
Well, he asked one of the witnesses out there. He says, I wonder...
Don't tell me what he asked the witness.
He went...
Tell me what you saw.
I seen him walk to the back of the house with a couple of his friends with the water hose. I walked around the other side, and he squirted it with the water hose.
Squirted what?
The couch, the whole living room set, and my table.
You saw that?
Yes, I did.
Really?
Yes, I did.
The reason I ask you, really, if that really happened, your eyes are fluttering. That's not a good sign, Miss Fair. The reason I ask you that is because usually people, when they prepare papers for court, put in the most important things, and nowhere in your papers that you prepared for me, stop looking through your documents when I'm talking to you, nowhere in your papers that you prepared did you say you observed him soaking your furniture. Nowhere.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a police report where I observed seeing him do this.
Yeah, let me see it.
I have a police report for the annoying phone calls asking me to get out.
Just a second. What was the date that you say you observed this?
6:30, June 30th.
And that was before or after this incident with your ex-husband?
This was after.
As a matter of fact, it was 2 weeks after, 2.5 weeks after.
Right. It was not my ex-husband, it's my daughter's father.
I see. When did you serve her with an eviction notice, sir?
I served her with a 3-day notice to ask her ex, who threatened me, to leave the premises. That was the 13th.
What date?
That was
13th.
the 13th.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, sir, you want to tell me about this furniture?
Your Honor, she moved in and she had furniture. I helped her move, and this furniture was not conditioned well. It was already destroyed. Something happened in her family where she got some other furniture. Someone was going somewhere for 2 or 3 years. I believe it was jail.
Whatever.
And I allowed her to move the furniture in my garage on a temporary basis. I told her I have gas equipment back there. You cannot keep it back there more than a month. She said, no problem. I'll get it stored. The gentleman that moved it in, he moved it in. I allowed him. But what I found very odd is that he left all the pillows on the outside. I came and told her the pillows were on the outside, but the sofa and the couch itself were on the inside. So the pillows were accumulating moisture and just daily. When this event occurred and she refused to leave, I told her, I said, hey, I got to get the garage clear. I got to get some stuff in there. I asked her to move it. The gentleman that had moved it in there, I asked him to move it. He said he would do it within an hour. I left the garage wide open for an hour. He didn't. I took her couches out with friends and put it right where her pillows are in my backyard, and they're there right now. I haven't touched them.
I want to tell you something. That sounds pretty disgusting that all that stuff is in your backyard. What kind of an apartment unit is this?
It's a 2-unit, man. It's just in the backyard. I have it's a pretty spacious backyard.
So the couch pillows sat outside in the backyard?
The whole time.
How long?
Maybe 2 months.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You blew him off.
No, I did
Oh,
not.
sure you did. You blew him off, madam. You said to him, I'm cooking for the church. I can't talk to you now.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Fair wants her former landlord to pay for wrongfully evicting her and ruining her possessions with a garden hose.
Now I'd like you to tell me, Miss Fair, I've already heard the story about the furniture.
I have pictures, ma'am, to show you and the receipt for
Just
the
a
couch.
second. You had I believe that the pillows for that couch were outside in the backyard all the time.
No, they were not. And
I
have
believe him.
witnesses.
I believe him. He does. Listen, he's under no obligation to store your furniture. He told you that he wanted to have it out. Hey, I'm speaking. Stop talking. He's under no obligation. He rented you an apartment. He did you a favor by letting you stay, letting you put your furniture in his garage. You were not paying for the garage space. You were not paying for storage. Clearly, in the beginning or the middle of the month of June, there was some sort of disagreement between the two of you, which I'm going to get to in a moment, having to do with your daughter's father. Clearly, that was a problem. It's a problem that I read about in the papers, and it's a problem that I heard just now. So then he said, get your stuff out of the garage. He can tell that to you in an hour, in a minute, in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes. He gratuitously let you use it.
But he didn't say it directly to me. He told the gentleman, he says, when is she going to get her couch out? He says, well, when I move her, which I was planning on moving, she will get it out. He stood there with his friends laughing, about 5 or 6 of his friends, went and took the couch out. Later on, he came back, and I went to the police.
I heard about the couch. I'm moving on to something else.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
I see the letters that you sent him. The letters that you sent to him clearly suggest to me that you were looking for him to give you money. That's what they say. You talk about the California Rent Board, for him to tell you why you want him to move, and to discuss relocation fees. So clearly these letters of June 28th suggest to me that you wanted him to give you money to move. So what I would like you to do now is to tell me what was the nature of what you call harassment.
Okay, I have a phone harassment letter here from where he kept calling me, asking to move. We had been friends.
Just a second.
Okay.
Don't talk fast.
Okay.
Phone harassment.
Yes.
What kind of phone harassment?
Telling me that he was going to throw me and my daughter out if we didn't get out because he was upset. He was friends with my daughter's father up until my father threatened his male ego or something and told him, please, you can talk to her in the morning. 1 o'clock in the morning, it's not appropriate time to come to the house. I have documentation where he came to my house at 10:30 at night, 3 days before rent was due, asking for the money, telling me, well, if you don't have the money, then I can demand this from you. And if you don't have this, I'm going to throw you out and I'll be sure to get you out. He kept calling on the phone from 6 to 7 times from the 13th to the 17th, telling me he wanted me out. It was a nightmare for me to have to be harassed. The kids go to dump the trash. My child had to be harassed. My niece had to be harassed.
Just a second. Hold on a second. Hold on. He told you that he wanted you to move on the 13th. That's what you're... Just a second.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yes.
He told you he wanted you to move on the 13th. Now, I would like you to tell me, Mr. Gonzalez, March, April... She moved in March.
Yes.
March, April, May. Any problems?
She was always late, but I didn't care because
Always
of her
late with her rent.
She was always late, but her situation, because of her daughter, she was in a place where she witnessed a crime that scared her. I understand I have a child myself, but to say, I'm sorry.
In March and April and May, other than being late in her rent, was she a reasonable tenant?
Yes, she was.
What happened, and you had no problem with her?
No.
Other than the late rent?
Other than the late fee.
What happened, sir, in June?
In June, her daughter's father had came down before I met him. He seemed to be a pretty nice guy. On June the 12th was the altercation when her daughter's father and her, the child himself, got into a physical fight. Things started sounding breaking. My daughter is six years old. I didn't want her to see this. I went over, I calmed things down, I asked him to stop. It seemed to be okay. But my daughter goes to school too, Your Honor, and I have to take her 23 miles just to get to one school, so we have to get up quite early. At 2 in the morning, she was on the phone yelling. I mean, she was
Who's
cursing.
she?
Miss Fair. She was cursing so loud. It was through the. I just banged on the wall to say, please stop. I didn't even go over there. It didn't stop. After it continued for about 2 to 3 minutes, I went over there. I told my daughter to stay here. I asked, could I speak to Stephanie? She wouldn't even come to the door. The ex-husband or whoever, he told me if I rang the bell again, he would kick my, this and that. And I didn't want to become volatile. I rang the bell and asked, could I speak to Stephanie again? He came out and greeted me face to face. Not that I can't defend myself, Your Honor. I just chose not to. I left the porch. I called her and I asked her, I said, I'm going to need to speak to you tomorrow. I didn't even tell her she had to go. All I did was wanted to speak to her about rectifying this situation, this nuisance. I have a right to live in my own property and feel safe myself. And I was doing her, I can't believe I'm here, Your Honor. I was doing her a favor. I didn't charge her first or last rent. I didn't charge her a deposit. I lowered the rent. I bent over backwards for her. And for her to do me like this, I'm appalled.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
He has an absolute right to the peaceful enjoyment of his property and to tell you to leave.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Fair wants her former landlord to pay for wrongfully evicting her and ruining her possessions with a garden hose.
So when you called and said, I have to speak to you tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened?
She laughed at me and hung the phone up. I tried to contact her. She would walk by. The units are so close that I would try to walk and say, can I talk to you for a minute? Nothing to say to you. She would put her, like this. The thing. Like that. Nothing to say to you. And her children.
Well, let me ask you this question. Miss
That is
Fair,
a lie.
let's just a second.
Because when he told me that me and my daughter could stay on the premises, you're telling a lie, John, because he says, okay, I'm going to tell you this. You better get over here and talk to me right now. If not, you're going to have problems out of me. When he says, if you don't talk to me right now. So when I said, look, John, I'm cooking dinners for the church. I'm selling dinners for the church. I will talk to you when I get home. No, you better come over here immediately.
Miss Fair, you had no problem with him.
No.
If you had no problem with him, there's no basis for this lawsuit. So don't anticipate my question.
Okay.
You had no problem with him in March, April, and May. He didn't tell you to leave. He didn't serve you with an eviction notice. This problem started when your daughter's father came to and stayed with you for a couple of days. Is that correct?
The problem, no. Because I had gotten an argument with my sister. He had never had any problem. Him and my daughter's father were friends. They socialized, they sat and ate dinners and stuff together. Okay, now what I'm saying is
I'm saying is, tell me what happened that he did to you to harass you in March.
In March, he didn't do anything.
Good. Tell me what he did to harass you in April.
Coming over to my house all the time.
That's baloney. Tell me what happened in May.
Nothing happened in May, ma'am.
Right. What happened in June when your daughter's father came to visit and there was noise coming from the apartment. Then it all started, and when he tried to rectify the situation or try to talk to you, you blew him off.
No, I did not.
Oh, sure you did. You blew him off, madam. You said to him, I'm cooking for the church. I can't talk to you now. So he served you with a notice. Then you serve him with this thing. Where is it? Where's this thing? And you say, you want me to move? Pay me money. That's what you said. Not only pay me money, But these were all the things that you said you were going to fix in the apartment that have never gotten fixed, right?
Yes.
Kitchen countertop, bedroom sliding glass closet door, all these things that you say weren't being fixed. You were, at that point, after you were served with a notice, because he didn't want unruly people living next door to him in his house, then you started setting yourself up to get money from him. That's unreasonable.
I did not set myself up. He knew my situation. For him to harass the children, I have witnesses here that was here for him to let people into my home when I asked him not to let people into my home.
What people?
Before this
Just a
even
second.
occurred.
What people did he let into
He
your
let
home?
Benita Wade, the witness right here.
Well, this is somebody that you know?
Yes, it is.
Well, how do you know her?
She's my friend.
So what do you mean he let her into your house? Step up here. You?
Not Benita.
Who's Benita? Step up here. Did he let you into the house?
Yes.
Tell me how that happened.
I was there waiting for her to get home, and she
Right.
hadn't arrived yet.
Yes.
And he said, well, I'll let you in. So he
Good.
let me
Nice.
in.
Sit down. All right. So now I've heard the couch, I've heard the harassment, and I've heard relocation fees. Now, I'm about ready to hear your side, sir. On what date did she finally move out of the apartment?
She moved out on, it was July the 20th, Your Honor.
Okay, is that correct?
No, I moved out on the 19th, and I have a receipt.
Fine, you moved out on the 19th. Did you pay rent for the month of July?
No, I didn't.
Good, you owe him money. Now, you are also suing for destruction of property. What property, sir?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. In the initial agreement there, and I think you have it there were five things that I said I was going to fix. Only one thing I didn't fix, and that was the kitchen countertop. I let her move in early. She had voiced...
What did she destroy, sir? Stop giving me a whole story.
I'm sorry. There's the repair to the rear bedroom door. She had someone I guess she said something's wrong with the door. She had them nail it. The whole frame is broke. All of it's broke. And the kitchen floor is, her refrigerator leaks. And I can't replace the tile. The floor is warped. And I got the best estimate I could get. They were doing me a favor by doing this. I went out and did this for her to get. I'm not trying to get any money from her that she doesn't owe me.
Good.
I just want to be compensated.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to teach you a very good lesson, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Good lesson is landlord, if they're smart, they get a month's rent and a month's security. That's what the security is for. Security is for this kind of damage. Because I know if I'm going to ask her, she's going to say she didn't cause any of that damage. Is that right, Mrs. Fick?
I have pictures. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
I did not cause any damages
All right.
that
She's
wasn't
going to say
there
she didn't
before.
cause any damage. Listen to me, Mr. Gonzalez.
I have pictures of
I'm not interested in your pictures. She's going to say she didn't cause the damage. You say she did cause the damage. The only thing I know for sure is that she owes you for rent. She owes you $435. That's on your countersuit. Your lawsuit, on the other hand, Miss Fair, is, in my judgment, bogus. Totally and completely bogus. A, I find no basis for the harassment. He came home, saw this young lady who he clearly knew was part of your either friends or family circle, standing outside, and he said, I'll let her, well, you want to wait? Wait inside. Now you're complaining about that, the fact that he was being a nice guy. You had no trouble with him, and he had no trouble with you. March, April, and May. Only when your former boyfriend, the father of your daughter, was there, and there was an altercation, was there a problem. And since he couldn't get any satisfaction from you, he has an absolute right to the peaceful enjoyment of his property and to tell you to leave. He also has no obligation to take care of your stored property after he's told you to leave. And I do believe that the pillows that he said were outside on the lawn were outside in his backyard. The couch may have been inside, but the pillows were outside, tossed away like so much garbage. So I think that if there's any damage caused to your furniture, you did it. So your lawsuit is dismissed, and I'm entering a judgment for the defendant in the amount of $435. That's all.
Parties are excused. Next step out. I'll be back to your right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Did a lot of things to me that was not right, and he has to pay for that later on down the line.
I think what she's got, it's a blessing in disguise that she didn't get hammered for the rest of the damage. She should be very happy.
wrecked the car, and Gina says Queenie should pay for the damage.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 229 on the calendar in the matter of Stake versus Martin. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, sir. Have a seat.
Oh, no. Come up here, gentlemen. This is your son, Mrs. Stake.
Yes, it is.
And Miss Martin, this is your son.
Yes, it is.
How lovely for you both. Miss Stake, you had a rental car. You let your son drive the car. He was with his friends. My reading of these papers suggests to me that both of these idiots got drunk. He drove the car right into a pole. Right?
Correct.
You think his mom, because he's a minor, should pay for the damage to the car.
Correct.
His mom says that you know your son drinks and you shouldn't have given him the car. That's your position.
That's correct.
So that you are not responsible for the damage.
Right.
Before I ask you two ladies to sit down, I'd like just for you to give me the bills for the car, and then I'm going to deal with the young men.
This is the
So the amount that you had to pay was $5,878.43.
That's the balance of it. My insurance paid $4,900.
But this is just the balance.
Correct.
Why don't you two ladies have a seat for a moment? I'll ask you to come back in a moment. Your first name is what, sir?
Paul.
Paul. And yours?
Jamal.
Now, Paul, tell me about how your mother, it came about that you asked your mother to borrow the car for the evening.
Well, it was, we all wanted to go out. He called me up. He said, what's up on the night? And I said, nothing, and got this rental car, and, you know, he wanted to go kick it. So I was like, all right, fine. You know, I told him I had no money. He said, come on now, this is Jamal.
Could you keep your voice up and try to speak slowly?
Oh, okay. He was like, come on now, this is Jamal. So I was like, all right. So he wanted to get drunk. Well, we all wanted to get drunk. So he went and bought the drink. Then after a while, we went to my...
Just a minute. So you went to your mother, and you said to your mother what?
Well, actually, she already gave me the car. She already let me use the car.
That day?
Yeah. But
what did she say when she gave you the car?
She was like, be careful. And I said, okay.
That sounds right. You said, be careful?
Yes.
So right after your mother said, be careful, you and this genius over here decided to use the car and to go and get some booze and drink, right?
Right.
And where did you decide to do that?
At my sister's house.
Your sister's house? How old is your sister?
Well, she is about 19 now.
So you decided to go to your 19-year-old sister's house with Jamal over here, and how many other people?
Just one more person, my best friend.
Now, were you drinking before you got to your sister's house? Is not an answer. In court.
No.
No is an answer. So what happened at your sister's house?
Well, I said, let's leave, you know, because he got into an argument with my sister and everybody else in the house. So I said, you know, let's leave. But by that time we decided to leave, we was already toe up. We were already drunk.
What was the word you used first? Toe up.
Toe up.
Okay, go ahead.
And so, you know, I was too intoxicated to drive, but I still said, let's go. But I wasn't going to leave just right away after I said, let's go. I was going to stay there and wait until I got sobered up. But he was like, no, you too drunk. He tried to take the keys from me. I was struggling with him because I was going to throw them to my best friend across the street. But he already got the keys from me because I was too intoxicated to hold on to the keys. But I still remember that. And after that, he just got into the car. I don't remember how I got into the car. That's the only thing I don't remember. But we got into it.
If you don't remember how you got into the car, you must have been 3 sheets to the wind. Did you ever hear that expression? 3 sheets to the wind?
Nah. No.
Nah.
So...
No. Toe up, you know. Go ahead. So now you're in a car. You don't know how you got there because you were
Toe up.
Drunk as a skunk. Right?
Yes.
What do you remember next, Paul?
All I remember is you know, I hear the car going, and next thing I know, I hear him and my best friend in the back arguing, telling him to slow down. And I did wake up and say, slow down, and then I went back.
That you remember. You don't know how you got into the car, but you remember saying, slow down.
I do remember that.
Okay. And the next thing you know, you were dancing with a pole.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They're two idiots.
I agree with that. And the mother is an idiot as well.
Excuse me?
And later today,
Just a second. A bunch of guys went fishing to celebrate his wife being pregnant?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gina Stake is suing Jamal Martin's mother, Queenie, because Jamal wrecked her car. Queenie says she's not responsible, claiming Jamal only drove the car because Gina's son, Paul, was too drunk to drive.
Jamal!
Yes.
Let's hear from you.
Okay. On September 13th, I called him and asked him.
Let's do this. You were in his sister's house drinking.
We were outside drinking.
I stand corrected. You were outside drinking.
Mm-hmm.
What were you drinking?
A bottle of Tanqueray.
Tanqueray. That's
Yes.
vodka?
Gin.
Gin. Thank you.
Order.
All right, so you all get towed up. Tow up?
Toe up.
Tow up. You all get tow up, and you got into the car.
Yes.
And what happened?
While we were outside, I was talking to a friend, and I heard some yelling. When I turned around, Paul and his friend Jacoby were arguing about who was going to drive home. Now, I already knew that Paul had passed out, so I walked over to him and told him to give me the keys. There was an incident months before where he had gotten drunk, and I had drove him home before, and his mother had thanked me for it the next day.
Were you drunk
No.
then?
No, I wasn't.
Yes, but you were drunk that evening.
Yes, I was.
So you
I
got
was-
behind the car, the wheel of the car,
Yes.
drunk,
Yes.
and hit a pole,
Yes.
and totaled the car.
Yes.
How old are you?
19.
How old are you?
18.
You go to school?
Yes.
You work after school?
No, not anymore.
Why?
Well, they had to let me go because I had to rephase a class. And
You had to what?
Rephase a class. That's taking the class over.
Why?
Because it was hard and I didn't understand it, so I had to take it over.
What about you?
No, I'm working right now.
Oh, good. That's good.
Thank you.
Now I'll have the mothers back. Consider yourselves both really lucky. I assume you do. You look like two absolutely lovely women.
Thank you.
Lovely, responsible women who really shouldn't be here today because they're too big to beat, for want of a better word. So you got to beat them financially in order to teach them a lesson, both of them. Because I agree with you that this young man is partially responsible for this bill. So is he. You agree?
I agree.
He had no business getting behind the wheel of a car.
That's true.
So he's got to pay.
I also agree, however, though, that Miss Stake is also at fault.
If she knew that her son had driven before drunk,
Right.
and she was hoping it would not recur, is that right?
I agree.
Then she's partially responsible. He's going to pay half of this bill.
And what portion is Miss Stake going to pay?
Oh, that half. That half, because it's going to take him a long time collecting cans or doing whatever he does to come up with $2,800, $2,900,
Okay.
which is what we're talking about. Bottom line is, he was the one who could have killed himself, the passengers in the car. Instead of hitting a pole, he could have hit
But who made it?
someone crossing the street with their baby carriage.
This was
Instead
3
of a
o'clock in
pole.
the morning.
Hmm?
This was 3 o'clock in the morning.
So what? Are you trying to make an excuse for him?
No, I'm just saying that no
Don't
baby,
make
no one
any
in a baby
excuse for
carriage.
him.
I am not making an excuse. I
So if
told
it wasn't
him,
a baby carriage, if it was somebody
But I
coming home
understand
from a
what you're
3
saying.
o'clock shift working that was crossing the street that he could have killed because he's an idiot.
Right, I understand that.
All right, good. So let's not make any excuses. I don't like excuses for one's children. When they do something stupid, you're supposed to say, my kid did something stupid.
And that's exactly what I'm saying, Your
Perfect.
Honor.
Then he's going to
But
pay
I'm also
half.
saying that I feel that my son was a minor at the time. Her son was over 18. Yes, I am responsible for my child. Her son, who was working at the time, is responsible for himself.
Right.
Now, she sent me a letter saying that to split the difference. I sent her a letter back saying, because I feel that you are at fault as well as your son and the other gentleman in the car, I feel that the greatest burden should be paid by her and the 3 boys should split the remaining difference.
I see it differently. I see it big time differently, and I'm going to tell you why. But for the actions of your son, it is possible that that car would not have been driven that night. He didn't have to take the keys to the car and drive it. He could have said, I'm going back in the house and calling my mother and having her come and pick me up because I'm not going to drive this car while I'm drunk. If they want to act like fools and drive the car, that's none of my business. Then you wouldn't be standing here
Exactly.
today.
Also-
No, just a second. They're 2 idiots.
I agree with that. And the
All
mother
right.
is an idiot as well.
Excuse me?
I'm saying, had she not commended him, her undermining what I'm teaching my child by saying, yes, Jamal, you did a good thing driving my son home when he was drunk, maybe he wouldn't have drove this time. I'm not making an excuse, but I'm saying...
You are making an excuse,
No, I'm
madam.
not.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Like I said, this is all funny to me. There's no person in this world like me. I can overcome anything in this world at all, anything.
And later today,
Tom had been consenting to drinking and driving.
Mr. Jackson, you were blotto drunk.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Miss Martin, she said to you in her letter, split the difference
And I
with
don't
me
feel it
because
should be
I am
split.
prepared to accept part of the responsibility for giving my son the car. She didn't say to you, your son was driving, therefore he's got to pay the difference. She said, I'm prepared to split the difference with you. That's assuming, on her part, a certain responsibility for allowing her idiot to drive the car in the first place. Come on, get it together, madam. $2,900. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
The money, that's not nothing. I'm still going to live out my dreams and become the richest person in 5 years. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like I said, this is all funny to me. They can get that money all they want to. But once they see what I become in the future, I mean, they're going to feel bad because they're not a part of it.
Well, there's somebody lying big time.
Yeah, must be, because that's what he said.
And it sure ain't me lying either.
And now the next case.
All parties on Heasley versus Jackson. Step forward, please.
Tom Heasley is suing his former friend Clark Jackson for wrecking his truck during a drunken camping trip. Clark says Tom encouraged him to drive while intoxicated and should share the blame for the accident.
Mr. Heasley, you and a few friends, including the defendant, went on a fishing vacation. Now, tell me about this fishing vacation. Who went on the fishing vacation?
Jesse Mobley, who's my witness, I went, and Clark Jackson went. We decided to go up to Rock Creek Lake to do some trout fishing to celebrate Jesse's wife being pregnant. So
Just a second. A bunch of guys went fishing to celebrate his wife being pregnant?
He had the choice of what we were going to do.
What's your name?
Jesse Mobley.
You must have a very understanding wife, Jesse.
Oh, yeah.
Lucky you. So you went trout fishing, got some liquor?
We brought up some beer. Clark purchased a pony keg to bring up for the second
Pony
night.
keg.
Yeah, 5 gallons of alcohol for our last night there.
Mr. Heasley, let's get to the truth of it. Everybody was pretty drunk, and he took your truck.
The night he took my trunk, all of us had had a decent amount of alcohol.
Okay. Now, how did you get behind the wheel of this truck? Tell me about it.
Well, Your Honor, we had gone up to the store the night before and gotten some firewood, and we went back to the campsite that night, and we drank a couple more beers, and we started a campfire. I went to sleep, and they burned all the firewood that night, 5 bundles of firewood. The next night, I went to go light another fire, and I realized there wasn't any firewood, and I said, well, I'll go get some. Tom, you want to go with me? And he said, no, I don't want to go. I asked Jesse. Jesse said, no, he doesn't want to go. So I said, okay, fine, I'll go get it myself.
And you had been drinking?
Yes, I had been. It was a bad judgment error, and...
Is that what happened?
Not even close.
So tell me your version of what happened.
Clark jumped in the truck without permission before Jesse and I could protest from the back of the campsite, said, I'm going to the store, jumped in, and was gone. And I waited. This was a night where he had drank quite a bit. We all had. But none of us, Jesse and I were not anywhere near as drunk as Clark was. We weren't stumbling around the campsite. We weren't driving.
Okay, so he jumped in the car. And then when was the next time you saw him?
The next time I saw him was when I decided to put on my jacket and walk up to the store because he'd been gone for an hour and a half. I met the highway patrol coming down. It's documented here. They said, Tom, your truck has been totaled. We're taking Clark down for DUI.
Which they did.
Which they did.
Now, tell me about this truck that you have. How old is it?
It's an 88 Ford Bronco. I just purchased it for $4,900.
You have proof of the purchase price of this truck for me?
Yes.
Can I have it, please? Now, Mr. Jackson, while I'm looking at that, sir, why do you feel as if you're not responsible for his truck?
Basically, Your Honor, previously, well, the entire trip up there, Tom had been consenting to drinking and driving. Everywhere we went, we were drinking. On the way up there, Tom was sitting in the back seat of the Bronco handing us the alcohol.
How old are you, sir?
I am 22.
Not true.
There comes a point, sir, that you have to be totally and completely responsible for what you do.
Yes, ma'am, I do understand that. But he did give me consent earlier that day by saying, you are welcome to drive my truck anytime this weekend. You are a very good driver. I know you can handle it.
Mr. Jackson, you were blotto drunk.
Yes, ma'am, I do understand that.
You mean you think he should have said to you, you have permission to drive my truck unless you're blotto drunk?
Your Honor, there was never a point in time where that drinking and driving was an issue.
Well, it was an issue when you wrecked his truck.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. 28-year-old Tom Heasley says while on a camping trip with his buddies, Clark Jackson wrecked his truck.
You destroyed his truck. Were you able to salvage any part of it?
None of all the salvage fees went for the tow fee, $1,000 to have it towed out of the canyon.
And you had no insurance?
Just minimal insurance.
What kind of, what's minimal? Look at me, sir.
Okay.
What kind of minimal insurance?
Just theft and collision.
Did your insurance pay anything towards the car, is what I want to know.
Not a dime. I did not receive a dime.
What was your blood alcohol on that day, sir?
Ma'am, it was .14.
So did you plead guilty to DUI?
I am in the process, yes.
Okay. Easy. Don't drink and drive.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you're 22 years old and old enough to get behind the wheel of a car, that you have to know. Don't blame anybody else. It's nobody else's fault but yours. You get behind the wheel of a car and you're drunk, you're just lucky you didn't kill yourself or, more importantly, somebody else.
Yes.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll back up to you right now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I thought I had pretty good friends for a minute. I wanted to try and pay for the truck to salvage our friendship, but as you can tell, it wasn't possible. I had a really good friend over here, Jesse Mobley, basically ruined my life.
suing his former best friend, 27-year-old printer Stephen Cutler, for a $3,000 loan. Stephen says John promised him the money after he won a huge settlement.
Order. All rise.
Thank you. Judge, this is number 388 on the calendar in the matter of Harkness versus Cutler. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, proceed, please.
Former friends
Correct.
fight over money.
Not correct.
Unfortunately.
Well, that's why we're here, sir, because this is a dispute over money.
Correct.
According to you, Mr. Harkness, you lent Mr. Cutler $3,000.
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Cutler says it was a gift.
Correct.
So why don't you tell me, sir, how did this loan come about?
Well, in the beginning of 1995, Stephen was living in a house. He was renting a room. He couldn't live at home. His father, they kicked him out of the house, and he couldn't live at home. He had nowhere else to go, and he was also getting kicked out of this new apartment that he had gone into. And he came to me and said, you know, John, can you give me $5,000? I said, Stephen, you know, $5,000 is a lot of money. You know what I mean? I really can't give you $5,000. I said,
What kind of work do you do that you had
well,
thousands of dollars?
unfortunately, when I was younger, I had cancer, and I had gotten a settlement for it. And so when
How did you get a settlement for having cancer?
Well, because I was misdiagnosed for not having it. And then I did have it, so it was a big, drawn-out thing. When I was 19, I got a settlement and put it away and invested it for my children.
How much did you get?
It was about $500,000. So
And Mr. Cutler, you knew that he was getting a settlement?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So Stephen came to me, like I said, asked me if I can give him $5,000. He didn't say lend. And I said, Stephen, I can't give you $5,000. I can let you borrow $3,000. He said, oh, come on, you can give me $5,000. You got the money. I said, Stephen, it's not about if I have the money. I can't afford it. You know, I was going to school. I put myself through college. And that was even before I got the settlement. So I've been working hard my whole life to save my own money. He said, come on, please, 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 you know. I said, all right, listen, I can let you borrow $3,000, but you got to pay me back. He said, well, I can't pay you back right away. I said, Stephen, I know you don't have money. If it takes you a year to pay me back, just pay me, you know, in drips and drabs, whatever you can, you know. So I gave him the money. He was so happy, you know. He said, thank you. My witness was present.
What did you write him a check?
I wrote him a check. And when I went to write him the check out, he said, don't write the check out to me, write it out to my father, because I don't have enough money in my account to cover it. Well, I said, that, you know, seems pretty sensible. He was asking me for the money, so obviously he didn't have money to cover it. And he said, I need the money right away because I have to put it down on a new apartment. So I said, no problem. I wrote the check out to his father so his father could cash it. After I gave him the money, I saw him less and less over the next 6 months. Come that October, I went back to college to get my bachelor's degree. So, and then I saw Stephen less even more. So I called Stephen up. Hey, Steve, I haven't talked to you in so long. How you been? What's going on? This and that. We talked like old buddies, like nothing had ever happened. Soon as I mentioned the money. What money? I said, Stephen, come on. You know, we grew up together. What do you mean, what money? You know? He said, you said that was a gift. I said, Stephen, come on. Who's going to give somebody $3,000? I was like, I haven't even given anybody in my own family $3,000, let alone a good friend. I said, I can let you, I let you borrow it. Which said, that's not what you told me, and hung up the phone.
Okay, stop. Mr. Cutler, did you need money?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
You were working in 1995?
Yes, I was.
What kind of work were you doing?
Working in a soda distribution company.
Doing what?
Forklift work and just distribution, loading trucks up.
Okay. Were you evicted from residences at that time?
No, I wasn't.
Your Honor,
Well, tell me.
Your Honor, that's a lie.
Just a second. He let you speak. Get back in a second. You don't deny that he transferred, I'm not going to say gave, loaned, or whatever, he transferred $3,000 to you for your benefit?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Now you tell me how that came about, sir.
We were longtime friends. We grew up together in the same neighborhood. And I knew John was getting a settlement. And he said to me, he said, Steve, he said, if I ever get a large settlement, he says, I'm going to take care of you and George Altz because you guys have been my best friends for so many years. Now, that's what he said to me. He said, you guys are going to get $5,000 each and a trip to Europe, he said to me. He said, I'm going to take you to Europe on me. That's what he told me.
I'm going to take you to Europe.
To Europe, yes, on him.
Just
that we were going to go backpacking, hiking.
So did you ever do that?
No, we didn't. No, we
Okay.
didn't.
So tell me about the $3,000.
So as time went on, we were in the basement and together, and he said, Steve, he said, remember when I told you I was going to give you $5,000? I said, yes. He said, well, I can't afford to give you $5,000. He said, I spent a lot of money. He said, but I could afford to give you $3,000.
You mean, and that just came out of the blue?
Yes.
Just to hanging out in the basement?
Yeah, yes.
Did you say to him, what happened to the backpacking that we were going to do, the traveling
No,
we were going to do?
I never brought up Europe. I wasn't going to be greedy. I figured whatever, you know, he was going to give me, he was going to give me.
So it just came out of the blue.
To be honest with you, it's been a few years. I don't remember the exact conversation, how it was brought up.
I do.
To be honest with you.
Go ahead.
It never took place in my basement.
Yes, it did.
When he was living in the house and he was getting kicked out, that's when the money transpired, actually. Mr. Alt was present.
He was present?
Step up here, sir.
Yes, he was.
Your Honor,
Step up here,
he's
sir.
lying, Your Honor.
Just a second. That's my strong suit, sir, to tell who's lying. What makes sense? Common sense. Yes.
How you doing?
Your name is... I'm
George
doing
Waltz.
fine. How are you doing?
Good.
Pleased to hear that. Your name is?
George Waltz. Basically, me and Steve talked about getting a loan from John. Actually, it wasn't a loan. We wanted to receive $5,000. Stephen ended up asking him. I just kind of stayed off to the side. Short time after, Steve came back and said, he's not going to loan us $5,000. He'll let us borrow $3,000.
Why were you looking to borrow money?
Because I was in debt at the time, and I had a lot of bills. So did Stephen. So Stephen said, you know, I asked him, he would loan me $3,000. I said, I don't want a loan. If he's going to give me $3,000, I'll take the $3,000. I don't want another loan to get out of debt, to get back in debt with a friend. So I said, it's not even worth it.
Why would you think that your friend, Mr. Harkness, would give you money?
Like, we grew up together. I would. You got to understand our circumstances. You know, we've been through a lot since little kids. I thought maybe we can get some money from him as a friend.
Sure, step up here. Who are you?
My name's Joseph Smeltzer. I know all three of these men here for well over 15 years. When John received his lawsuit, for years, well before he received it, Steve and George had been his best friend, lifelong best friends. John had bragged countless times, and specifically, that he was going to take care of them financially and give them a gift.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Just a second. Were you present, sir, when you heard any discussion about $5,000 and a trip to Europe?
Yes, I was, many times. He made a lot of promises to a lot of people, not just Steve and George. I mean, he bragged that he was going to take care of a lot of people in many different ways. And
just a minute, a lot of people do that.
Yes, they do.
A lot
Absolutely,
of people
they
do that.
But you got to consider the fact when best friends of this nature, they're considered like family. They grew up all their lives. It's more like family. It's like if I came into $1 million tomorrow, I'd have no problem giving Steve $5,000.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's a bitter man because I couldn't be friends with him no more because he had a swelled head and I couldn't deal with him no more.
And later today,
You're going to give a box of ashes to your children and say, here, hold your grandmother?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Harkness wants his former best friend, Stephen Cutler, to give him back the $3,000 he loaned him. Stephen claims the money was a gift.
What you, Mr. Cutler, is suing for is on a contract. You say that there was a contract, and your contract with him was that he was going to give you a gift, right?
Correct.
A contract requires, in the law, something called consideration. There has to be something that you give to him and something that he gives to you in order for it to be enforceable. Otherwise, it's just puffing. I'm going to take care of all of my friends. Now, there's a certain amount of common sense that suggests to me that you are having certain problems in 1995.
Your
That
Honor,
has a ring of truth to it, sir.
Your Honor, $3,000 wasn't going to make any difference in my life at that time.
He was getting kicked out of the
whatsoever.
Just a second.
Whatsoever, Your Honor.
Just a
$3,000.
second. Then why, Mr. Cutler, would you think, sir, that after several years, because this transaction took place several years ago, that Mr. Harkness would at this point sue you for the $3,000?
Because he's a bitter man, Your Honor.
Why? Just a second. Why do you think he's a bitter man?
He's a bitter man because I was friends with him for a year after he gave me the $3,000. After that, I couldn't be friends with him no more because he had a swelled head and I couldn't deal with him no more. And a lot of people the same way. So
don't tell me about a lot of other people. What
two
about
years
you?
later, he calls me up on the phone and says, Steve, he says, the money that I gave you, I want it back. I said, John, you gave it to me as a gift. He said, doesn't matter. We don't speak no more. He says, I want the money back.
Never
I said, well, you're not going to receive the money.
Never
You gave it to me as a gift.
Nope.
He said, well, I'll see you in court. And I said, I'll see you in court then.
Just a second. I'm going to resolve this in a minute. Did he make the check payable to your father?
Yes, he did. He told me, Your Honor, the reason why he made it out to my father was he told me, he goes, I don't want you spending it all in one place. He goes, I feel if your father is involved with it, he goes, your father will look out for the money better than you will. And that's why he wrote my check to my father.
Oh, no. You see, a very important thing for you to remember, sir, is that common sense is what's supposed to prevail in a court. If he were giving you money outright, he would have given you the check made out to you. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you didn't need the money immediately, you could have opened up a bank account, put that check in the bank account, and waited for the check to clear. The fact that he made the check out to your father suggests to me that you needed the money immediately.
Yes.
And thank you for agreeing with me.
Sorry.
I also think, Mr. Cutler, that of all of his friends, I haven't heard of anybody else that just took money from him. Right? You haven't told me about anybody else that just took money.
I'm the only one here, Your Honor. I mean,
there were other people.
There were other people.
No, there wasn't.
I could have brought many witnesses here, but...
Name one.
Just a second.
Why'd you bring him?
Hey!
Sorry.
Sit down now. Mr. Harkness, I am satisfied based upon primarily the one tangible thing that we know, which is that you both agree on, that you made the check payable to his father, and that suggests to me that there was an immediate need that he had for the funds,
Yes,
which
Your Honor.
supports your story that he needed the funds immediately for a new apartment, which is totally different from what he's saying is that you were in the basement of your building making out a check and you said, I hear I'm going to give you some money.
No, never happened.
Well, I know you say it never happened. So I am giving you a judgment, sir, in the amount of $3,000, which is the amount of the loan. Thank you,
Your
that's
Honor.
all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That's right.
Out this way, gentlemen.
This way.
Out the back, go to your right.
A freak in disguise, bro.
See, that's all he can say.
A freak in disguise.
That's all he
Look
can
at you.
say.
Rip off that suit and
That's all he
nothing
can
but
say.
white trash.
White trash with a
Mama's a freak,
with
his
a
dad's a
bachelor's degree.
freak, his whole family's
Bachelor's degree.
freak.
Ask him what degree he has. Ask him how many degrees he has. Nothing. I'm white trash.
And now the next case.
Parties on Sheindlin versus Sheindlin. Step forward, please.
42-year-old Suzanne Gendron wants her former sister-in-law, Teresa Gendron, to return the ashes of her mother.
Very strange case. And very old. Your mother died 21 years ago, according to your complaint.
Correct.
How old was she when she died?
She was 54.
And according to your complaint, your former sister-in-law, that's you, has her ashes.
Correct.
And she's had them for 21 years.
Yes.
You want them back?
Yes, Your Honor.
First, what took you 21 years?
I have been asking her since my children were born. We had an agreement that if and when I had children, because I was not married when my mom passed on, if and when I had children, that she would give the ashes to me to watch over my children. And
when did you make this agreement?
This was the year after my mother died, and we had agreed to that. And I began asking her for them when my daughter was born. My daughter, Sarah Louise, she's named after my mom. And I have not been successful in getting them from her since then. And we need her very much.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't know what it's like growing up in a house
Well,
full of
that,
men
you know, it's not
with no
like,
woman's
Susan,
touch.
Susan, I'm
No
sorry.
one-
What woman's touch are you going to get from an urn or an ash?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 42-year-old Suzanne Gendron wants her former sister-in-law, Teresa Gendron, to return the ashes of her mother.
Hello.
How are you?
So?
So, I never agreed to give her back the ashes when her children were born. My mother-in-law confided in me that when she passed away, she wanted to be cremated, and she wanted her ashes thrown where her father used to dock his boat in Long Branch. I never knew exactly where this was, so I didn't want to just take her and just put her ashes anywhere. So the reason that I still have the ashes is because to this day I don't know exactly where she wanted her ashes thrown. She asked me to do this. I took it seriously, and that's why I still have the ashes. I never agreed to give you back the ashes.
Were you close to your mother before she died?
Yes, I was very close.
And did you hear her say, was she ill before she died?
No.
She was not. So this was, her death was sudden?
Very sudden. She had a heart attack.
When did she tell you that she wanted to be cremated?
She lived in Plainfield, and when she was in Plainfield, we spent a lot of time together. Suzanne didn't live in Plainfield. Suzanne lived in Montreal. And on one of our outings or trips to the shore, she told me that this is what she wanted because that's where she felt most peaceful.
That's
now,
right.
Is that right?
Yes, and I have explained to my sister-in-law that I am prepared, and I insist that we fulfill my mother's last wish. My Aunt Beth and my brother went last summer together to the exact spot where my mom wants her ashes scattered, and it was always in the agreement that I would have my mother for a short time, and then we would all go to that spot. We know exactly where it is.
Great. Well, then this is a very easy lawsuit to resolve.
We want to fulfill my mother's last wish.
And so do you.
And so do I.
Good. And when do you intend to do that?
Well, I was unaware that the aunt and my ex-husband knew or even went to this spot.
Well,
what I want to know is why they didn't include me and bring me with them so that we could have fulfilled my mother-in-law's wishes a year ago.
Absolutely. That's going to happen.
That's going to happen.
That's going to happen. When do you want it to happen is the question.
On her 25th, on the anniversary, the 25th anniversary of her death, which will be in 3 years.
No. Why would you want to wait another 3 years?
Because I don't have very long to live. I've been diagnosed with 2 different terminal illnesses. And I would like, for my children and for myself, I have some very difficult battles to fight. And I need my mother's strength. And I don't think that after 21 years, I don't think that 2 years or 2.5 years is going to hurt my mom that much. I think she'll enjoy being with me, her daughter, and her grandchildren.
Ms. Gendron, what you say is very sad, but you can't give yourself, nobody can predict the moment that an illness that you have, even if it's a terminal one, is going to cause you to leave this earth. And I wouldn't like you to live under that kind of an onus anyway. I mean, that's a terrible thing. Right now, your mother, and you acknowledge that, had a dying wish, and her wish was that she be cremated, which she was, and that she wanted to rest peacefully, having her ashes dispersed in a certain way.
Yes.
So you have to do that.
Yes.
And you have to do that now. It's been all too long delayed.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What is clear to me is that every person has the right to dictate what happens to them at the time of their death. Your mother did that.
Yes, she
It's
did.
been delayed for 21 years. It should not be delayed at all. I will make an order, and you tell me at what point you're going to be ready to go to New Jersey. That's where she wanted to be scattered. So you tell me when, and I will fix a time frame, a week or a 2-week period.
Spring.
In the spring? Step up here. Yes. April? Good. April.
How about May? May 15th. That's my daughter's birthday. She's named after my mother.
Is that a good date?
That's a good date.
May 15th?
Yes.
Fine. That on or before May 15th, the 2 of you, together with any of the siblings that want to accompany you, will finally fulfill your mother's last wish. Case is resolved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Please.
Thank you.
And on the next Judge Judy.
In my opinion, my sister-in-law feels like a box of ashes is going to take all her guilt and loss away from her. That's going to put something back into her life. I don't live with a box of ashes.
It's not a
I
box
live with
of ashes. It's my
memories.
mom.
You're going to give a box of ashes to your children and say, "Here, hold your grandmother"?
No, I had a beautiful urn made for Mom. You don't know what it's like growing up in a house
Well,
full of men
you know, it's not
with no
like
woman's
Susan.
touch.
Susan, I'm
No.
sorry. What woman's touch are you going to get from an urn or an ash?
Glenn Burge is suing his soon-to-be ex-wife Michelle, claiming she threw away precious photos and memorabilia of his son.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please.
Yeah, this is case number 292 on the calendar in the matter of Burge versus Burge. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, sir.
Mr. Burge, you claim that your soon-to-be ex-wife, who was the defendant in this case, destroyed or threw away some irreplaceable memorabilia of yours after you were out of the house. You place a dollar value on that memorabilia at $5,000. She says that you were an abusive drunk who hit her, left the house, disappeared for months. She had no idea where you were, and ultimately got fed up with storing this stuff and just got rid of it. Correct?
That is correct.
So, how long were you married to each other, actually living together?
On and off for close to 3 years, give or take. We were only married right at 4 months, though, when I left.
And I gather you were living with the defendant's father.
That is correct.
All right, so tell me about your departure from the house.
The evening that I left, I was quite intoxicated, if you'll bear with me. This is the first time I've seen Michelle since the evening that I've left, and I still haven't really gotten over her, but the night that I left, I did become intoxicated. I went back to her father's mobile home, whereas we had another argument, and I was intoxicated enough that I don't recall whether or not she hit me and knocked me down or she shoved me and knocked me down. At that time, I got up, I slapped her, and I left, and I never went back. That was my understanding with her. I had told her if I ever raised my hand to her that I would leave. And that was the only time, Your Honor, that I had ever raised my hand to her.
So you left?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long were you gone before you made a request for this property that you say you left behind?
It was about 2 months.
And how did you make that request for the property?
By telephone originally?
Talking directly to her?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what property did you leave behind, sir?
I left my clothing, camping equipment, fishing equipment, some tools, an awful lot of books, memorabilia, my son's photographs from when he was a child, and I requested if I paid UPS prepaid, would she box these items up and send them to me? And at that time, I never really got a response from her.
Well, did she tell you that she had already disposed of all the stuff?
Not at that particular time, no.
Where were you for those 2 months, sir?
I was working, living in a little town called Antioch. I was living with my sister, and I was working, pumping gas.
Why didn't you call the very next week and make arrangements to pick up your stuff?
The emotional situation is that I had been fairly mentally abused by her on a number of occasions. As a matter of fact, there were times that I spent as many days in my van living there. This is my secure area. After an argument, you have to excuse me.
Do you have a drinking problem, Mr. Burge?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Has it been a long-standing problem with alcohol?
Yes, ma'am. Although this was one of the reasons I believe that Michelle had asked me to move in with her father. He also has a drinking problem, and he needed a drinking buddy.
Were you drinking all during the 3-year relationship with Michelle?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Michelle.
Yes.
Why don't you first tell me your version of what happened on the night that your husband left?
He was supposed to meet me that evening, and we were going, my son and him and I were going to go to MGM Adventure Park. He never came home. He never showed or called. And so when I returned from the park, because I went ahead and went, I found him at a casino in town, saw his van parked in the garage, and I went in and we looked for him, my son and I both. He wasn't there. So we went on home, and there he sat on the ground, very intoxicated, and laughing. And I said, thanks a lot for showing up for us. And I did push him on the shoulder, and he fell back. But I proceeded to walk down the hall and out, and he came after me, and he hit me with a fist, closed fist, like a man would hit a man. And it spun my head around. And I couldn't close my jaw for 7 days thereafter. At that point, we called the police. I was yelling, for Dad, he's hitting me. Help me. He came out of the bedroom, and the police were called. At this point, Glenn tried to take my car and leave because his van was obviously still parked at the casino. And I pulled him out of the car, and I recovered my car. At that point, he walked down the street, got a neighbor to take him back to his van at the casino, and I never saw him again or heard from him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I even went into rehab for 3 days.
But didn't work.
Well, after being out of rehab for 3 or 4 days, Michelle would make me a cocktail.
And later today,
I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for you, Susie. And every time I do something for you, this is the way I get it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
52-year-old engineer Glenn Burge is suing his soon-to-be ex-wife Michelle, claiming she threw away precious photos and memorabilia of his son.
What had you done with all of his belongings?
Put him in an unlocked shed outside of our mobile home, which meant he had access at any time, day or night.
Ultimately, what did you do with them?
We left him there for which I have receipts from the Salvation Army until March 6th of '97.
And then they came and took all the stuff?
Yes.
What about his pictures and that sort of stuff?
They took it all. It was thrown in garbage bags and boxes and kind of...
And it had been 3 months that you hadn't heard from him, according to you?
Not at all. I contacted his aunts and uncles, which I had his address book, so I went through it and found some. Took a chance that he might be, and he was. He had been there. And so they kind of directed me to an address and a phone number.
So who called him? Did you call him?
Yes.
And what did you say when you called him?
I didn't reach him. I reached the relatives. Yes, Glenn was here. He stayed a few days and left.
So you never really reached him?
No, but he got the message, so he called back.
And when he called you, you still had the property?
Yes, we did.
So what was the conversation?
It was, hi, how are you doing? I can't live in Las Vegas anymore. The drinking's too available, and I would like you to come live here with me. And I don't really remember if the property really was mentioned at that time.
But then there came a time when you did call Salvation Army.
Yes.
Now, how much time passed between this first conversation that you had with him and the time that you actually disposed of the property?
Approximately 1 month later.
And why did you dispose of it at that time?
Because I received a letter from Glenn saying that he would be there on a Saturday and pick up his things. And I agreed, fine, we'll meet you here Saturday, and he never showed.
Do you have that letter?
No, that was no, I don't.
Do you remember writing a letter to her?
No, ma'am, there was never a letter written.
My father remembers this, Your Honor.
I believe you.
Okay.
I believe that maybe you don't remember, sir. Mrs. Burge, I gather from your husband that you knew that he had a drinking problem at the time that you married him, because you were together for 3 years before you married him.
Yes, I did.
Why would you
I
do
didn't
that?
know it was to that extent at that point.
But you knew he had a drinking problem.
Yes, and he had said he was going to work on that, and I had hoped he would.
You know, I get the sense from looking at both of you and from listening to you, sir, that you still have some very strong feelings for her.
Yes, I do. I did since the first day that I ever met the lady.
And I also have a sense that but for his drinking problem, you feel strongly about him.
We did. We had a very, very close relationship, and it was good when. It was good when it was.
It was good when it was good. Mr. Burge, what have you done, if anything, to deal with this problem that you have?
I haven't had a drink, Your Honor, in almost 3 months. During the course, if I may add, during the course of our relationship, towards the ending of it, I even went into rehab for 3 days.
But didn't work.
Well, after being out of rehab for 3 or 4 days, Michelle would make me a cocktail.
You have to understand, Miss Burge, the nature of the illness. You know, you can't treat it as if it's a thing that you can turn on and turn off. Sometimes you don't understand that. You believe that he hasn't had a drink? Looks pretty straight to me.
It's possible.
If he did enter a period of sobriety in his life, would you be interested in trying to save your marriage?
I'm not certain because he did hit me, and it wasn't the first time. He had tried to hit me before, but he
Well, that was
wasn't
only when he was
successful.
drunk?
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying to you. I mean, nobody should live in an abusive kind of relationship.
No. Yeah.
But he did leave.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, because I think he felt terrible that he did that.
And the police were on the way.
He probably was too drunk to even understand that.
Think so?
Mr. Burge, your lawsuit is a relatively simple one, sir. She doesn't have to store your property. She hadn't heard from you for many months. I do believe that you did make arrangements to go and pick up the property, and that you didn't show up, and she got fed up and ultimately said, just get the stuff and any recollection of this man out of my life because I don't want to deal with him anymore.
If I may, I also have phone records stating, or actually physically showing, that I have been in contact with her since December, January, February. And
She says that. She says that you had
right.
been.
And in February, I'd also sent her a dozen long-stem roses to her job. I was trying to keep this relationship going as long as I could possibly because of the feelings.
Then you wouldn't want to be punitive, Mr. Burge.
Right.
And you did, in fact, hit her, and I believe that you hit her. Whether you realized it at the time or not, it was more than a slap. So you're going to have to live with the fact that because you have a drinking problem, you did certain things that were really the antithesis of good behavior for any human being to another.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I certainly get the sense from the two of you that neither one of you is prepared to totally throw in the towel. Maybe you can ditch Dad for an hour and go out and have a cup of coffee.
And later today,
You using me is over with. It's
Okay.
over with.
Okay, no problem.
That's it, Susie. That's
No
it.
problem.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Glenn Burge wants his estranged wife, Michelle, to pay for the loss of photos and memorabilia of his son. Michelle says she held on to his belongings for 6 months.
I don't think she's a bad person, sir.
She's not.
Okay. So then we really shouldn't be here today, other than perhaps for you to see her, because you said it's the first time that you've seen her since you left.
Yes, ma'am.
I certainly get the sense from the two of you that neither one of you is prepared to totally throw in the towel. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Pardon me, sir. Maybe you can ditch Dad for an hour and go out and have a cup of coffee or breakfast and just talk. Is that a possibility?
If she's willing.
You willing?
I don't know, Your Honor.
Well, you see about it, Miss Burge. If your husband, who I clearly believe you have some feelings for, still. No or yes?
No, I would say no.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Just too much has happened.
I can understand that. I can understand that. Mr. Burge, you may have to try a little harder, sir. She's vacillating a little bit, so you may have to try. Maybe 3 months isn't enough. In any event, I'm not entertaining a claim for $5,000, sir. I am dismissing your lawsuit. That's all.
Okay. Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
Parties on Bishop versus Baum. Step forward, please.
35-year-old Lori Bishop is suing her former girlfriend, Ingeborg Baum, for the cost of a parking ticket. Ingeborg says it's not her fault she got the ticket and refuses to pay for it.
This was your friend. She asked you to do her a favor and drive her downtown because your daughter was in jail?
Yeah.
And you didn't have a car?
No.
So you did her a favor, drove her downtown, parked your car where you shouldn't have.
Well, not really where I shouldn't have. We parked the car. We stayed there. We tried to find out where Renati was going to be. And
Renati
how
is
long
your daughter?
Yes.
Find out how long it was going to be before she got released. Well, we'd been there probably about 3 hours, and we got back to the car, and Susie says, "What is that on your windshield?" And I says, "It can't be a ticket because I can park here. I parked here before. I know we can park here." So we went and got something to eat. We came back, and we parked across where in this little complex. And it said, "No parking, towaway zone." I'm like, I don't feel good about this. So when we started our trip out, I told her that I'd pay for the gas. I mean, she has to pay for the gas, but I'd give her the ride. So we got to the gas station, and her ATM card wouldn't work. So I put $20 in my car, and then I got $20 for us to eat because we weren't sure how long it was going to be for us, before we got back.
You parked your car where you shouldn't have parked your car, Miss Bishop.
Right. Well, I did. Well, it was the sign said parking this way, no parking this way, right there.
What is that? Just a second. What does that have to do with her?
Well, I wouldn't have been there if it wouldn't have been for her.
That's what she keeps saying, and
I wouldn't have been there. I did her a favor. I've done a lot for this lady.
Miss
a
Bishop,
lot.
listen to me. Your argument is that but for the fact that you were doing her a favor, you wouldn't have had your car down in that location and you wouldn't have gotten a ticket.
Right.
And therefore, she is responsible for the ticket.
Right.
Let's say you were driving with her to pick up her daughter, and you were speeding.
Right.
And
No,
you
I
got a
wouldn't hold her
just a second, and you got a speeding ticket. Who would be responsible for that?
No, it wouldn't be.
Who would be responsible?
I would be.
Because you did the wrong thing.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, you try to explain to me how it's different parking where you weren't supposed to be parking and speeding.
Well, because she didn't have the money to pay where we could park, where it wasn't going to cost us any money. I mean, where it wasn't going to cause me any harm. She didn't have the money. She didn't have any money when we went.
But then when you parked there under the tunnel, I asked you, can you park here?
Right, and I could because I did before.
So I asked you.
Just a second. So you said you've parked there before and you didn't get a ticket.
Right.
This time you did.
Right.
Pay it.
Okay. Well, what about the money that I took $40 to eat on for the parking, to finally pay the $5 for the parking and stuff. What about that?
Just a second.
I mean, when I called up her
Miss
one day,
Bishop, I think she's responsible for those out-of-pocket expenses. The gas, right?
Yeah.
You've paid $5 to park the car after you moved the car when you got a ticket? Were you with her when she moved the car?
Yes.
And she paid $5 for that?
Yes.
You think you're responsible for that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That's $25. And if you think that you were wrongfully given a ticket,
right,
then you have to go argue that to the Parking Violations Bureau. You go before a hearing examiner and tell them your story. But you parked your car in the wrong place. You got a ticket.
Right.
You have to pay for it.
Well, okay.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $25.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
That's not right, Susie. That's not right. Okay?
I
wouldn't have been there. I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for you, Susie. And every time I do something for you, this is the way I get it. I mean, what about the $100? I had to get it from her.
Gas. I will
pay for the gas. What about all everything else, Susie? So I'm just stuck with the ticket. I have nothing to say to you after this point. Even though I was a friend enough and took my whole day away to take you down there, you can't help me out by paying half the ticket? Yeah, walk off, Susie. Just walk off.
Rod McMillan and apartment manager Greta Barden refused to refund his rent and assaulted him.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please.
Judge, case number 421 on the calendar in the matter of Landolfi versus McMillan Barden. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Landolfi, I've been in this business for a very long time, and I've read a lot of complaints. I read your complaint. I read your revised complaint. I still, for the life of me, don't understand what you're suing for, except that I do understand that for a short time, you entered into a lease agreement with the defendants.
Correct.
And that was because you were going to have some medical treatment.
Yes, sir. Ma'am, excuse me.
Where do you live normally?
I was living in Vallejo at the time and attending the Martinez Outpatient Veterans Clinic. And because of the problem couldn't be resolved by their doctors, they suggested a specialist, not a veterans doctor, in Palm Springs, an internist. So I came down to see him.
And you needed a place to stay for a couple of
Correct.
months. You found an apartment in their facility, in their
First
complex.
30 days I stayed in a motel. It was too expensive. Then I found the Brentwood.
Now tell me about your lawsuit. Tell me why you think that they owe you $4,700 or $4,800.
First of all, the verbal agreement, of which I have a receipt for, so it's also in writing, was $600 a month from September 7th to October 7th to November 7th, 60 days. And I have a receipt dated that day, and I'll show you. I have a whole file of exhibits for you, Your Honor, if you wish to see them. Let me look at mine, though, so I can, or I can give you your copies right now if you wish to look at them.
You rented an apartment, according to you, for $600 a month from September 7th until October 7th.
Well,
Stop,
no,
don't rustle papers.
excuse me.
Don't rustle papers.
November 7th, Your Honor.
Well, you left before October, correct?
I left on the 29th of September to go to Vallejo, flew back to pick up my car, my clothes, and to make my final visit to Martinez Hospital.
How long did you live in their apartment?
From September 7th through the 29th.
Of September.
Yes, ma'am.
And how much rent did you pay altogether?
$1,200.
You paid $1,200.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get any back?
I got $400 back.
When did you get the $400 back?
I told her on, in writing, on September 27th, here is the balance of $500, which brings the apartment rental to November 7th, and they only take cash, no checks, no credit cards. And I put 3 items. Please ask the maid to clean up. She hasn't cleaned anything.
Did I ask you a question? I
Yes,
said, when did you get the $400 back?
I got the $400 back after that note, and I got the $400 back on 9/29.
So, you asked for a refund, and you got a partial refund.
Correct.
So you asked for how much, sir?
The rent from September 7th to October 7th is $600. They gave me $400 back. They still owed me $200 for the month of October. I paid October all in advance. I paid $700 for the month of October, Your Honor, and I have documentation to prove that.
Please. You said you paid him $1,200 altogether. You got $400 back, which means from your hand to their hand ultimately was $800. Correct?
Correct.
All right. And you lived there for a month, and you said your rental
I
agreement...
lived there. No, Your Honor, I did not live there for a month. I lived there from September 7th to September 29th when I went home to go to the hospital and get the rest of my clothes.
Okay. I am assuming, sir, that for the purposes of argument, that's the month of September. So that's $600.
For 3 weeks.
Okay. Which means $200 owing. So you want to tell me why they owe you $5,000?
Okay. They still owed me $100 for my $700 October payment. They owe me $145.53 because when I came back from the emergency treatment at the hospital, on October 2nd, I walk into my apartment and there's a gray-haired gentleman with a Pennsylvania license plate on a new Cadillac sitting on my sofa, and both of us say simultaneously, "Who are you?" I said, "This is my apartment. I just rented this apartment." I said, "You can't. I have a lease till October 7th. It's now the 2nd. So I go see Miss Barden. She said, "Well, you left." I said, "I didn't leave. Where's my clothes? Where's everything?" "What clothes?" wait a minute. I flew back to Vallejo to pick up my car and go to the hospital. I didn't carry it. I had 3 left shoes in me because I still can't. I haven't worn shoes in on my right foot in six months now, 6.5 months. Where's my jacket? Where's my slacks? Where's my 3 pair of left shoes, my underwear, bathing suit, etc., etc.? Nothing was there. I said, "Where's the rest of my money?" She said, well, you didn't give me the key back. I said, I forgot the key. They were on top of the TV. And you stole the telephone. I said, what are you talking about? You're not getting your money. So I claim 7 days rent at $20.79 a day comes to $145.53. The total now, with the 100 she still didn't give me, was $245.53. Using her exhibit, and I think Your Honor should look at this. It's her handwriting.
Just would you get to the thousands? So far, I'm hearing hundreds, sir.
Okay.
Get to the thousands.
You have to forgive me, Your Honor. I got a touch of the flu. My brain is not as fast as it normally is. This lady claimed she was a nurse. The stress, harassment, this stuff, that stuff that she put me through continually came to my house after I filed the first small claims case, which I filed on November 18th, and she never accepted it. But she came speeding into my driveway with a car, nearly knocked the mobile home down that I was now renting, came at me, threw a punch. I'm proud to be a Marine lieutenant. I ducked, it hit my shoulder. She sped away at 30 miles an hour, and it's at 10-mile-an-hour park. There's a lot of seniors there walk around with walkers. So I call the police to file assault charges. I work with the DARE program with the police department, so I know all the cops. I tell them what's going on. They come back and they say, Don, she says you're throwing eggs and confetti and stuff all over her car. I said, don't be silly. Here's the small claims case. I just filed it 3-4 days ago. Stay away from her. She's crazy. If you want, get a restraining order. I said, forget it, Pete. I'll tell her to stay away from me. He said, we already told her don't cross the street. And that was the assault aspect. So I'm now charging $3,845, punitive due to the dire medical condition I was in, and she knew it, because she saw me every day sitting at the pool, my feet raised, because the doctor said you got to get the blood going the other way. And she's a nurse, et cetera, which I'd love to know.
I didn't understand the complaint when you wrote it, and I still don't understand it.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I told him, you are the best from Budapest. He says, what? He probably believed I say you are the best.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 66-year-old Don Landolfi claims he has a refund coming from landlord Rod McMillan, and he was assaulted by apartment manager Greta Barden.
What I don't understand is, you were in the apartment for, assuming for the purposes of argument, for the month of September, at a rent, according to you, of $600 a month. You understood that you were not getting prorated rent for the 7 days. You were paying $600 for the month of September. You paid, according to you, $1,200, which would have brought you up from September, when you moved in, until November 1st.
7th.
Or November 7th. But something happened. I'll let them have their chance to explain to me what their version of the events was. Something happened, and when you came back from your trip, you found somebody else in the apartment. You had already, prior to that time, sir, asked for your money back, and you were already given $400 back before you took this plane ride home. Is that right?
Semi-right.
No, I'm always right. Before you took the plane ride home, they gave you back $400. That's what you just told me. Now, what did they give you the $400 back for?
Because I had paid the whole month of October 7th to November 7th in advance. $700 I had paid.
So, why did you ask them back for the rent?
Because they wouldn't fix the electric plug, the TV didn't work. It said, I told her I will get out on October 7th, 1 month rental, yet I paid you for 2 months. So I wanted my $700
okay,
back.
now I see. So, you left on September 29th, and you had already received back the $400.
For October.
For October, with the understanding that you were going to vacate the apartment by October 7th.
Correct.
Oh, now it's coming clear. I knew eventually we'd get to it. So when you came back on October 2nd, really just for the purposes of picking up your clothes or your things.
And living there for 5 more days.
And living there for 5 more days, you found somebody in there.
Correct, ma'am.
Okay. Now, when you left to go home on the 29th of September, who did you speak to and tell that you were going to be back on the 2nd of October?
The manager of the complex, Greta Barden.
Okay, Ms. Barden, you are the manager of this complex.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'm getting to you. Did he tell you that he was coming back when he left on September 29th?
He told me he was leaving, and that was it, that he was tired with the place. He demanded the money. I told him I will keep, because since he did not paint, then he had to pay for the electric bill, which was $106 plus. And then I told him I will return the other $100 when he returned the apartment key. I saw him moved out and he did not give me the key. But then when I went to look, and it seemed like he was gone, I found this in the door that it said, my place until October 10th, stay out note. Then I called the police. I asked Mr. Robert Hernandez from the SWAT team in Palm Springs came over. I said, sir, this gentleman has moved out and left this note there. What do I do? So he knocked, and there was no response. Then I opened with the master key. He told me to stay out, not to walk in. He walked into the place, calling his name several times, loud, all around the place.
All right.
He came out and he told me I could go in then.
Okay. He was paid through October 7th.
Right.
And you moved somebody in there on October 1st.
I believe so.
Okay. So you owe him for a week.
Right. Excuse me, but the police told me since the place was vacant, because he checked with me the closet and everywhere, since the place was vacant, that apparently his clothes were gone.
I don't care what the police told you. You know, if they wanted to be lawyers, they would have gone to law school instead of police school. What I'm telling you is you owe him a week.
Right.
Because you charged the other man for a whole month.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you
$1,000 a month.
Shh. So you owe him for a week.
Yes.
Clarification. Note here, signed by him, says, I'm leaving 7 days early, therefore my attorney as you, etc.
Let me see.
And our problem, he wanted to be reduced.
All right, just a second. Let me see this.
Well, here's our answer to that. This is the answer.
Exhibit 12, Your Honor. My exhibit.
Mr. Linforti, he said, I am leaving 7 days early. Therefore, per my attorney, as you caused this situation, you owe me the $100 plus 7 days at $20.59, or $145.53. Total $245.33. Okay? Now,
excuse me, there's one more sentence there, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Due to my medical condition, no stress aggravation is due to me. At noon today, please, they never gave me the money. That makes October 7th the official departure date for me. They never gave me the money.
Whatever. They can't keep
What do you
this
mean,
money
whatever?
anyway.
I paid for the month of September,
Just a
Your
minute.
Honor.
You can't rent a place twice.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you.
They owe you $245.33.
Excuse me, Your Honor,
Ma'am.
53 cents.
Excuse me.
If you say 33 cents,
I say 53, 145.53. Oh, okay, excuse me.
Your Honor.
Yeah, excuse me. Say I'm wrong.
I am 100% wrong.
Good.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I said, when are you going to stop this? So stupid guy. And he came at me with this part of his arm. He pushed me in this part, and I went backwards.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Don Landolfi says his former landlord, Rod McMillan, and apartment manager, Greta Barton, owe him a refund on his place.
Listen to me. That's what you owe him. You can't rent a place twice. That's unfair. Now, let's get to this assault nonsense.
Let's get to my clothes first. That's $700 worth of clothes, Your Honor.
Just a minute. Was there anything in the apartment?
No, ma'am. The police is a witness. He walked in there first, and I walked the second time with him.
I'd like to see the
There
police
was nothing,
report.
and it was the telephone gone, and it was the coffee maker gone, were all the lights on, the air conditioner full blast. There were the two TV sets on, and
so all the electrical equipment was on.
Was on. Plus, he took everything from the apartment, plus the telephone.
Let's get to the assault, please. Did you go to his house after you were served with a small claims summons?
I did not. I was not served ever with any small claims court,
Okay.
Your Honor.
But did you go to his house?
He kept putting eggs and vanilla ice cream and soap in my windshield. I called the police.
Just a minute, did you see him do that?
I did not see him. I slept in my car several times trying to catch him. For some reason, he was not there the days. One time when I came and I found the egg in my car, since he was living across the street, I saw him drive away after he saw me get to my car.
So you thought it was him?
I believe it was him. There was no other reason for anyone else to be.
Okay.
Then,
so you thought it was him?
Yes.
So then what did you do?
Then since I had the egg, and I was sick and tired of 6, 7 times doing this, and the police, all they did was a frequent patrol. So then I thought, well, maybe I'll stop it because I was ignoring it. So I thought I'll go over, and I knocked at his window in his trailer park. I knew it was his car because it says Marine. So he came out, and I said, when are you going to stop this? So stupid guy, I said, I'm sick and tired. So he said, get out of here, get out of here. I'm going to sue you. And he came at me. How could I attack him when he's older than me and everything? And a Marine, I wasn't going to about. I was too scared of his size and his mental condition. So with this part of his arm, he pushed me in this part, and I went backwards until I was able to turn around and hold myself against the trailer, or I would have fallen to the ground. I made a big deal out of it because I was scared, so I wanted the neighbors to be aware that my presence, so he would not do anything drastic to me. He kept screaming at me. He said he was going to sue me and everything. So I went in my car. I drove to the manager of the place. I showed him my car, and I explained to him that this was done by Mr. Daldolfi, and if ever was done by anybody in the parking place, to please come and look for me, because I was a witness to what harassment he's been giving, sexual harassment and all kind of harassment, and I wanted them to be a witness. Or I would be happy to help him. So I went back to my apartment, and I called the police. They came, they talked to me, then he went over to him and told him to stay out of my place, not to even call me, because he was calling me several times. He was coming over my place, knocking at the door, demanding the money. I was one time at the lounge, and he came over me. I was not aware he walked into the place, and he called me a bitch and insulted me, and he walked away because I told him there was no money coming to him. I had to call the locksmith. I had to...
Okay. Okay. Does he still... What?
There is a locked gate to that property. You can't get in unless you have a key to the lock. So
It was
everything
unlocked
she told
during
you...
the day.
May I finish, please? I can't use the word perjury. That's your decision. This lady is lying to Your Honor.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
I find, after hearing this case, you own the property, sir?
I'm the president of the association.
And you're the manager?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a lie also. She's not the manager anymore.
I'm a temporary manager.
She was manager at that time.
Are you feeling better, sir?
A little bit. Thank you, Your
Good.
Honor.
I'm going to help you feel a little bit better, Mr. Landorfi. But not a lot better, sir. Not $5,000 better. They owe you $245.33. Period. And I suggest that if you still live next door to each other or across the way, you stay as far away from each other as is possible. This case is over.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
At one time, he told me that he would like to move into my apartment to save on the rent. At that time, I told him he can very nicely go and sleep at the bottom of the pool.
I came out, and she went like this. I'm taught the duck hit me here, and then I pushed her. You act like a man, you're going to get treated like a man. But I didn't hit her. If I hit her, she wouldn't be here right now.
I told him, you are the best from Budapest. He said, what? He probably believed I said you are the best. But I repeated it more clearly, that you are the best from Budapest. In that moment, he jumped out of the pool and he said, that's it, I'm moving out of here.
and is suing for the medical bills.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 327 on the calendar in the matter of Matar versus Soria. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat.
You pronounce your name Matar?
Matar, yes.
Miss Matar, this is your little girl?
Yes.
And according to your complaint, she was playing at a friend's house with your children.
Yes.
And that, unfortunately, she was bitten by your dog.
Yes.
This dog. And you seek reimbursement for your medical bills.
Yes, please.
There is no dispute that your dog bit her. It scratched her, is that right?
Right, there's no dispute as to that, no.
Well, then why don't you tell me why you don't believe you're responsible for the child's medical bills?
First of all, Your Honor, my dog, he's really good. He always has a problem with sensitive ears. And when the children started coming over, I make sure, and I told him, the dog is fine, just don't pull his ears. Because he'll react. He reacts to adults, he reacts to us. It's a problem that he's had since he was a puppy. He's now 6 years old.
Okay. So that I found interesting in your answer. You said that the dog has had a problem with his ears since he was a puppy. Tell me what kind of problem.
It's really hard for me to tell you. I taken him to the vet, and he says, well, he just has sensitive ears. There's nothing wrong with him inside that he can see that's physical. It's just a sensitivity that he has.
Well, what has the dog done?
He hasn't done anything to anybody before. What he's done, and my daughter can probably show you, is if you grab his ears and try to extend them, he tries to move, kind of bite off your hand off his ears.
So he tries to bite off your hand to let...
Because he is not comfortable with that. And that was something that I explained to the children, not only when they first started visiting, but every single time that they went to play with the dog. I said, you can play with him, you can pet him anywhere you want, just don't pull his ears. He's fine if you just, touch him down, but if you extend them, he has a problem with that. Hi.
Hi.
Veronica, can you tell me about the day that you went and played in the house where that dog was?
First, I went to my friend Christy's house.
Is that their house? How old is Christy?
8. 8.
And how old are you?
8.
Okay, sit still, okay? So you went to play at the house, and what happened?
I pet the dog and he bit me.
Where did you pet him?
On the head.
Did you pull his ears? You sure? You just went to pet him. Had you played with the dog before? Dog never bit you before. Where were you bitten, Veronica?
Over here and that.
Right over here where that mark is? Did it hurt? Did you have to go to the doctor?
The hospital.
What happened to you in the hospital?
The doctor put me some stitches.
Do you know how many stitches you had? And how long ago did this happen? A while ago? My eyes aren't so good anymore. So I need these glasses to really get a good look at, your face, because your face is beautiful. Right? Just had that little mark on it, so let me see. Come close to me. Oh, it's going to be gorgeous. People aren't going to look at that. They're going to look at your gorgeous eyes. Right? I'm telling you. Okay. Why don't you go sit down? You feel better about going to sit down? Yes? Okay. Heard?
Sure.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell me?
It's obvious that it was in her house, it's her dog, and if she knows that he has a problem, keep him away from children. Don't give the responsibility for 8-year-old to know what she has to do.
And I understand what you're saying. The point, too, is that the responsibility of having a dog is almost, the words that your husband told me was, well, what kind of people are you to have a dog? Well, I'm sorry.
Miss Soria, listen to me. You know, things get hot when you're in the middle of a dispute. I think that sometimes animals are unpredictable. And even though an animal has not done anything in the past, you never can tell when something is going to trigger some sort of aberrant behavior, like biting a child. Your dog, while you tell me that he has not bitten anybody before, clearly had a problem with his ears. Now, according to the child was not pulling his ears straight out, which is what you say causes him to act out that way. According to this little girl, that didn't happen. But clearly, someone is responsible minimally for the medical bills that these people incurred. Can I see your medical bills? Because as between this lady and you, it was within your home that this happened. So somebody is going to be financially damaged. And I'm not talking about the little mark that's on your daughter's face. That's going to go away, hopefully.
Well,
and
I have a report from a doctor that will scar forever.
Well,
she has 2 scars on her face, one on her cheek, one under her nose.
I just want to know what the bill was so far.
We paid $2,500 cash for the plastic surgeon to do her face.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know he has a problem, lock him outside.
But you know, if you had
don't ruin a little girl's
we didn't know he had a problem.
Thank you for the nice words. That shows what kind of people you are.
And later today.
I mean, talk about losers. You know, when you hang around with losers, you know what you become?
A loser.
Right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Micheline Matar's 8-year-old daughter Veronica was bitten on the face by Maria Soria's dog Pebbles and is suing for the medical bills. Maria claims she told Veronica not to touch Pebbles on her ears, but she didn't listen.
Mrs. Matar, I'm going to come to you. You seem like an intelligent lady.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that you knew that these people had a dog in their house. And an intelligent person also knows that when little children are around a dog, something can happen. Now, I'm not saying that you are responsible, but you clearly knew that they had a dog, right?
Things can happen anywhere you go.
Thank you.
Right.
That's my point, too. When a dog bites somebody, regardless of where, when, and how, it usually becomes the owners of the dog's responsibility. It's almost a relativity here as to, okay, so by default, you know...
No, Miss Soria, you're missing the point, madam. The point is that you were, A, aware of the fact that your dog had a problem. Right? Did you ever tell that to Mrs. Matar?
No.
Well, you see, that's a responsibility that you have. Because then Mrs. Matar would have been on notice. And she would have known that what you knew about your dog, that your dog had a certain sensitivity. And then I would say, well, she assumed the risk if she let her children go to your house to play. You can't say that I'm telling an 8-year-old and therefore I've completely absolved myself of responsibility. If you told the mother, and after you told the mother, she said, dog looks perfectly fine to me, I'm going to let my children go over there, then she is, in at least in part, negligent. You would agree with that, right?
Yes, I do.
But you didn't tell her, and that was a mistake. Telling the children is not telling her. Now, they have medical bills now of $2,500. Somebody's got to pay for that. You had the knowledge about your dog. She did not. So you have to pay these medical bills, and the judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
What about the scars? I'm sorry, Your Honor. What about the other charges that I have to do another surgery for her to take out all the scars on her face?
Let me tell you something. Right now, to date, your medical bills are $2,500.
Okay.
Right? If you have additional medical bills, there on notice, they may be responsible. It may be that as your daughter gets older, this little mark that's right over here is going to fade.
I spoke to a specialist, which she
You
told
may
me that it
have
will
spoken
not.
to a specialist, but I'm telling you, as your daughter gets older, she's still a little child. Her face is going to grow, her skin is going to grow, and what looks like a 1/4 of an inch scar now may be nothing more than a dot later on, and you as a responsible parent might not want to put your child through an additional surgical procedure. So right now I'm giving you your medical bills to date, which are $2,500. Now you have to know, Ms. Matar, also, if you allow your children to go next door to a neighbor to play and the neighbor has a dog, a little dog like this that looks perfectly harmless, there is always that risk. I don't think that there was anything malevolent about what the defendant did. I mean, according to what she tells me, the dog has never bitten anybody else. But you have a responsibility to tell the parents, not the children, of people that come into your house, that this dog has now bitten one child. Because the next time, if this happens to somebody else, you are responsible for punitive damages. Do you understand?
I understand.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, I'm about to go to your right.
You know he has a problem. Lock him outside.
But you know, if you had
don't
a
ruin
little,
a little girl's
we
life.
didn't know he had a problem.
Thank you for the nice words. That shows what kind of people you are.
well,
You did
oh,
not
yeah,
even bother to call to ask how my daughter was.
And now the next case.
Parties on Flubacher versus Fi. Step forward, please.
20-year-old student Renata Flubacher says she bailed 19-year-old Courtney Fi's boyfriend out of jail twice and has not been paid back.
The defendant was a friend of yours, according to your complaint. She had had some trouble with her mate.
Correct.
Some domestic violence, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
You had him arrested?
Yes, I did.
And then you thought better of it.
Yes.
So you called your friend and asked her to bail him out of jail.
Yes.
And what did you say?
I was unsure of it at first. I didn't know the procedures of what the law meant and what exactly. At first, it was just that she needed to borrow the money, and then it ended up she needed a co-signer, which was a lot more because I didn't know the gentleman. And of course, what I knew of him was all negative because what
You
had
mean the
happened.
gentleman that she lives with?
Well, her boyfriend.
Her
yes.
boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So how much did you spend the first time to bail him out of jail?
I think it was $325 after all the court fines.
And you borrowed that money from her?
Yes.
You promised to pay her back?
Yes, I did.
And you haven't?
No, I haven't had a chance.
How long ago was this?
It was in May, I think.
Now then he got himself arrested again.
Right. He got on probation and then was arrested for the same thing pretty much, from what my understanding is. Not on her, but on somebody else.
He sounds like a real charmer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was my best friend, and we don't talk anymore.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Renata Flubacher says she bailed Courtney Fi's boyfriend out of jail twice and is suing Courtney to get the money back. Courtney feels it's her boyfriend's debt.
What was he arrested for the second time?
Assault.
On whom?
Some guy, I don't know. Some guy he fought with.
And what happened?
He had called me from jail and was crying and telling me that he respected me and that one of the main problems with Courtney and I was that he wouldn't let me see Courtney. He said that my friendship with her, that I had bad influences
This is Courtney?
on her. Yes. That I had bad influences on her. I've known her since 6th grade, and he pretty much told Courtney who she could and could not see, and he pretty much was just apologizing and saying that, you know, if I got him out again, that things would be different and that she could see me. Because when I got him out the first time, I pretty much didn't speak to Courtney again. You know, I didn't hear from her. She was at his house. I would call there. He would get upset with her, yell at her, tell her, you need to tell that girl to quit calling here.
You mean this is after
I bailed him out of jail.
After you bailed him out.
So he pretty much just begged me, and then he started saying some things about if his probation officer found out that he had violated his probation, he would go to jail for 6 years. And he was like, I'm going to go to jail, and I'm going to go to jail for something I don't deserve, and something like that. So I called Courtney, and I was like, you know, Courtney, is this true? And from what she understood, it was all true. And I was like, what do you want me to do? Do you have another way to get him out? You know, do you need the money? She was like, yeah, I need the money, and I can't live without him, and I need him to be out of jail. And
did you say that to her?
I did say that.
You couldn't live without him.
Well, I did love him very much.
Sounds like a manipulative sucker.
Yeah. Well, at first he wasn't like that, but...
So how much did it cost you the second time?
It was $325 again. And this time with a lot more writing his, because I had to co-sign also again, because neither one of them know anybody who has any type of liability, and it was a lot more money this time if he didn't end up going back to court.
Did he go back to court?
No, he didn't. I ended up having to call bounty hunters on him to pick him up. He was supposed to go to court, and Courtney and him got in a really big fight within a week or something. Something blew up, and he was staying at his other girlfriend's house, and we had to call the cops, and we had to do all this stuff. And the bounty hunters came and picked him up and had to take him to court, and then he got put back in jail.
So how much did the whole exercise cost you?
It was a little over $900.
All right, Courtney, let me hear your defense to this.
Well, I believe that I owe her for bailing him out the first time, but I didn't ask her to bail him out the second time. And he's the one that asked her, so I think that she should be suing him for the rest.
Well, she did, in fact, call you after she got this jailhouse call.
Yes, and I told her if she wanted to do it, that I would like her to do it, but I wasn't asking her to do it.
You said, I'm not asking you to do it, or did you say, I love him and I can't live without him?
Yeah, I said that, but I'm not asking you to bail him out.
She did say that, too. She's like, well, I'm not asking you, I'm just... She said something like, I'm not asking you because I know you've already done this once, and I know I already owe you money, but I love him so much, and I can't live without him, you know? And I was just like, okay, so do you want me to leave him in jail, or do you want me to get him out of jail? You know, this is up to you. And I told her straight out, I was like, you owe me this money. I can't stand it. I don't like what he does to you. I don't like the way he treats you. I don't like the way he treats me as somebody who's helping him. And
did you say that to her when you spoke to her on the phone?
Yes, I did. And we went together to the bonds place, and I was like, Courtney, this is a lot of money. I was like, I've worked so hard for all this money. And
what kind of work do you do?
I'm a waitress and a full-time student. And I've been saving all my life. I was like, this is my savings, and, you know, you will pay me back this money.
When did Prince Charming finally leave the picture?
About a month ago.
Under what circumstances?
I just couldn't take it anymore.
And he's going back to
jail.
jail.
And he's actually wanted again. And I'm trying to help his aunt out because she's going to have to put up $14,000 if he doesn't turn himself in. So I'm helping her.
You mean he got somebody else to put up bail for him?
Oh yeah, his aunt
and he
bailed him
didn't
out.
show up.
And he hasn't showed up, and I'm the only one that he calls, so I'm trying to set him up.
Let me tell you what you should try to do. Change your number.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about losers.
Yeah.
You know, when you hang around with losers, you know what you become?
A loser.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I believe the plaintiff when she says she couldn't stand your boyfriend. Sounds to me as if she had good cause. He tried to come between the two of you. He's clearly abusive. He's unreliable. And yet, because of your friendship, she bailed him out of jail. Big mistake. Don't do it again. I'm sure you won't. You know, you're a hardworking gal, and if you have been diligent about saving your money, save it. You know, bailing him out is like taking the money and throwing it down the sewer. But there is no question that I believe that you assured her on both occasions that you would be responsible for this money because she was not relying on the boyfriend to pay her back. She was relying on you to pay her back. Your lawsuit seeks $800. You have to pay her. It's the right thing to do. Okay? Okay. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
He's very violent. He's I don't know how many times he's hit her and stuff, but he's very verbally abusive. Many times when I've called there, he's calling her names. I was really confused. I've known her pretty much all my life, and I was like, what is she doing with this guy? And then 2 days later, she said that she was still in love with him, and I was confused.
She was my best friend, and we don't talk anymore.
Mm.